All right, guys, welcome back to episode 12 of 11 Bang Gang. Today, I got a special dude named Macke coming on here with me. Matt, say what's up, dude.
Hey, how's it going, man?
All right, so have you heard the latest on the Venezuelan conflict? Are you keeping up with that?
Oh, I think, yeah. I think, like many veterans, I'm intrigued by it.
Yeah. Are you opposed to? I asked the last guest this, but like, are you opposed to like protracted conflict, or is it kind of just keep it how it is, and if we just do small hits, it's okay?
I think any hit, large or small, I think, what it comes down to is what you're strategically trying to accomplish. So, from a national security standpoint, I mean, it's just my humble opinion that, we got a long history of taking bad dudes out, and we've got the right people to do it. And so, and this guy was a bad guy, much like Saddam, much like Gaddafi, so and so. I mean, um, so I think there was both a national interest, and I mean, I think the people of Venezuela would agree it was good for them as well.
It's funny because it sounds like a lot of us guys who went to war are now like not anti-war, so to speak, but we're less, we're like less jumpy to be like, let's go blow that guy up. And so, I feel like a lot of us are just kind of like, it has national security. It has, it has all the earmarks of this is controlling our hemisphere. And, when somebody's selling oil to our enemies and ends up there, they're not even, it's not, I think it just come down to, like you said, national security interests. And,
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not opposed to it.
I would agree
As
with
long as
you.
we're not nation building like Iraq.
Right. Yeah. I'm not for another decades long war or trying to nation build and change people's hearts and minds because that has been proven ineffective. So, yeah, we
Yeah.
want to take these hits, take the bad guys out, get in and out, square away our interests. I'm all for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree, dude. I agree. So, okay. Let's see. You were in OIF and OEF. So for those of you wondering, now what unit were you with?
So I was actually I was with
When
1st and 34th Infantry Division, 168th Infantry, 34th ID, 100. Sorry, let me back myself up here. So I deployed to Iraq with 1st of the 133rd Infantry, and then
Yeah.
later deployed with to Afghanistan with 1st of the 168th, same division. And then there was a gap in time in between those two deployments where I was with the 1st of 194th LURS.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just trying to get a gist of how many units you were with, so that way I know. Okay, where did you grow up at?
I grew up Eastern Iowa, small town, very rural, actually. Small farming community. Um, Not a whole lot going on there, We're
Yeah,
kind of just
yeah. That
we're
did you?
just kind of rednecks. So
Yeah, yeah. I think being somebody from Georgia, it's funny because it's like when I joined the military, there were like the guys from Texas and the guys from Oklahoma and the guys from like the Southeast, kind of, all the excuse me, royal dudes kind of hung out with each other. And it was funny because you're all kind of rednecks. You're all country boys. It's just like different flavors.
yeah, oh yeah, 100%. That's spot on. And it was interesting, when you first get like, coming from a small community, I don't even know as if like prior to my ship date when I went to basic training, I don't even know if I might have met one or two black people, because so I
Really?
mean, yeah, I mean, we're just it just
Ugh,
they just didn't live around there. I mean, not I
that's a
mean, yeah, just super,
yeah.
super white, super rural, and then when you go to there, you're just like, holy shit, it's a melting pot, man, where you get a ton of culture in a very short time and you're trying to figure everything out. Yeah.
Yeah, see that it was opposite for me because like where I grew up, like where I live in the southeast, like that's I mean
Oh, sure.
most part. yeah, most of our black African American population lives in the Southeast. That's what a lot of people don't realize. Everybody thinks it's like Chicago. It's like, no, bro. It's like
Yeah,
Louisiana,
no,
Georgia,
I mean
Alabama,
that's no
Mississippi.
joke. Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia. I
Yeah.
mean, all right through there. I remember. And then you get through between the accent and the way people talk down there too. It was like I when I'd have family come down there when I was stationed down there, and you go to order something, everything's Coke, everything or sweet tea gets
Yeah.
offered to you.
Yeah.
And I remember having these gals, going just saying like, "Hey, baby, what you want to eat?" Or whatever, and my folks being like, "What the hell she say?" And I'm like, "No, she's asking you what you want to eat," and
What
because
you want to eat?
they just didn't have the ear, for it. So that took some time.
Yeah, like it's funny, man, because like it was so funny because because I have a heavy country accent, or at least I didn't think I did, but when of course when you join the military, anybody that has any accent, you're like, oh dude, he's from
Oh yeah.
Boston, yeah. But like people will be like, oh, you're probably like super racist because you're from the South, and I'm like, bro, my high school was like half black, half white, if not like more. I think I think my county's like 60%, and I'm like, yeah, dude, like it's so funny, but yeah, college football was definitely fun in the military because of a bunch of Southern guys. We were all about that.
Oh
But
yeah.
so you grow up there. What year do you graduate high school? Just so I can kind of put a timeline on like where we're
Sorry.
at. Kind of.
Yeah, I graduated 03.
Oh, three. Okay.
I'll put this into perspective for you. I had 28 in my graduating class, so that's how tiny the school
Wow.
was. Yeah.
God, dude, I think I had 85. So it
Okay,
it was
that's
higher.
that's
Yeah.
not that big, but compared to like what it is today, where it's like 300-400. But
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. So when 9/11 happened, you were a
I was a
sophomore?
junior, I believe. Yeah, end of
Yes.
sophomore year, junior year, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Okay, so when in your life are you like, yeah, I'm joining the military?
I
Like when did you know?
remember, I remember, but so I don't have any family lineage of military. I was the first one. Um, I think I had a great uncle that might have been in Vietnam, but he died. I didn't have much of a relationship with him, but he'd have been about the only one that I know of. Maybe a few extended family members that were Navy and stuff. But I I remember sitting in our we had ag classes back then, like I think an ag woods class or something like that. And they stopped school. They wheeled the big box TV and on the cart stand,
Ah,
that went
yeah.
around to 5 different rooms, and they wheeled that in, and we watched it live as soon as it was happening. And that I'd say probably I was like, oh yeah, like fuck these guys. Like that's when I knew.
Wow. So you were that like that was a decision on the spot. You were like, yeah, let's go get these dudes.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I just
Man,
made my blood boil.
man. Yeah, yeah, it's funny. I like it. Of course, I'm an '08 graduate. So I graduated in '08. So I'm 35. So like for me, and it's like we've talked about on previous podcasts, the different guests, because it was a 20-year war. So like for guys like me, we grew up thinking we were going to miss the war in high school. We're like, Iraq, Fallujah, all this shit's going down. And we're like, dude, we don't want to miss the war. We need to hurry up, graduate so we can get over there and slay bodies, and it's funny how like and you probably thought it. So if you graduated in '03, you probably thought you missed it until Iraq really got kicked off. Then
Well, I was just going to echo what you just said, because I had the same like kind of premonition. I was like, man, like, yeah, they were, I think I was 2 years. My math could be wrong. Like you said, it was a 20-year war, and it's been 20 years
yeah,
since I've been there. But I think I was like 2 years behind the Battle of Fallujah, and that was mostly Marines.
yeah,
But Fallujah and Ramadi,
yeah,
I was a little bit behind those, but we still got in where some active bad guys going on, still some shooting going on. So,
yeah.
um, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I was like, oh, I'm gonna miss all the big stuff, So,
Yeah. That's so funny that all of us guys were like that. Okay, so you graduate and you go to the army. So the question is, I ask this to every guest. So if you haven't listened to an episode, you're unprepared. But so okay, you join the army. You have a. I'm sure you watched all the Army Strong commercials. You were like, yeah, I know what this is going to be like. What was it like? What you thought it was going to be, expectation versus reality, to how the military really was when you got to boot camp?
oh boy, that is a good question, because I would say boot camp was exactly what I expected it to be.
Okay. Okay.
When you grow up, you kind of, I had seen Full Metal Jacket and I had seen the
Yeah.
movies prior to, and, you talk to enough people and they're like, oh yeah, they give you tips, what they would do, sort of thing. So I had a pretty good idea of what going to basic training was going to be like. And that for the most part, uh, it met my expectations. What I did not realize was this. So I kind of fell in kind of a unique situation. Because I initially joined the Marines.
Oh,
Um, yeah, I want to be a Marine.
okay.
And so I was 17 at the time, and again, I'm trying to make the war, man. Like, so I'm trying to get my parents to sign a waiver, and they, the Marine recruiter comes in, he lays it on all swab, like no, 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 we're just taking him down the maps, see if he's qualified, do the ASVAB, do all that stuff, and I did all that, and they ended up signing. I was like a little bit out for a year of graduating, so they concocted this plan where they were gonna sign me up for active duty Marine, no, sorry, Reserve Marine Corps, and then switch the contract to an active duty contract to extend that DEP time. Because apparently there
Mm,
was a way to do that. In my in-time service, and my ship date would be pushed back to where I could graduate and I wouldn't have to deal with all that. Well, I mean, I'm 17. I don't know what I'm doing. They got the contracts reversed. And so I'm getting ready to ship, and I'm like, dude, this is not what I want it to go to. I did not want to go to the reserve unit,
right.
And so they ended up just giving me a general discharge. They wouldn't change the paperwork. So they were like, you can either ship at this time and do this. And I think they had me going to like fucking Korea or something. I don't know. But, or wherever it was. And I was like, no, it's not what I planned my life for. It takes, you have to set this stuff up, before you leave. I can't just take off.
Yeah.
And so they ended up just giving me a general discharge, terminating my contract. And I turned around and I just went over to the Army recruiter and I was like, what can you do for me? So that's how I ended up
Man.
in the Army. But then when I got to 30th AG down in Benning, because I was infantry, um, they at that time, I don't know if the Marine Corps did this or any other service branches, but the Army was really like trying to recruit people, to build up for the war.
Yeah.
And so they were throwing ridiculous contracts out, right? Like, you could get an option 40 contract and get a guaranteed SF contract. You could get
Yeah.
a Ranger contract, whatever the nomenclature is for that, yeah, you could get these things in there. And so what I think the Army did was they offered all those contracts out and an recruitment push to come back, and found out that they were having to honor all these guys' contracts that were washing out.
Oh,
And so it was getting
yeah.
expensive. So what they did is they consolidated all these guys with these option 40 Title 10 contracts or whatever, consolidated them into training battalions down at 30th AG. So if you had an SF or a Ranger contract or something like that, you got put into basic training, they'd wash you out there. And whoever survived that, I don't want to call it advanced, but, kind of a harder training unit.
Yeah.
If you survived that, then you went there. So I got down there and I was at 30th for way too long because I was in processing. And I went to my liaison and I was like, dude, I've been sitting here for 2 weeks. When am I going down range to train? He's like, well, we don't have anybody. We're not going to have another unit ready for you, for a couple more weeks unless we can feed you in to this one. And at that point, I'm tired of just getting fucked with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, wake up, wash your out, wash, get fucked with, go to breakfast, get marched around. We're not doing anything. So I was like, yeah, no, go ahead and send me. So I remember getting off that cattle truck, and all the drill sergeants were all tabbed out and everything. And they're just like, you motherfuckers think you want to be special forces and Ranger. And they're like, if you have a Ranger contract, go over here. If you have an SF contract, go over here. And there I stood in the middle. And they were like, what the fuck is your deal? And I'm like, no, I just want to be a soldier, man. And they're like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. So that was a catalyst to me getting screwed with all the time. And then they found out I had a previous contract with the Marines. So every morning in our morning formation, I had to go out there and sing the Marine Corps hymn after the Army song, of course, in front of the entire company. But other than that, the basic training was a real, I'd say it was tough, but it was more or less what I had expected in my head to see. Sorry, that was a really long answer.
No, dude, that was great, man. Like, sometimes you have people on here that don't go into detail. That was beautiful, man. They're like, yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, I said this, the only thing is I talked myself up too high. And then like when I went to the Marine Corps, there were people that made it through boot camp that I was like,
I
I
don't
wasn't
want to
cool
go to
with.
war with you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but I mean, then you find out that when you get to the fleet, which we call the fleet in the Army, you guys might have a different name for it, but when you get out there to the units, you know what I mean? You find all kinds of people, and then you're like, yeah, there's shitbags everywhere. I mean, it's just the system allows for it.
Yeah, they
But
want numbers sometimes, I think, so they kind of ignore a lot of stuff, to push a number through to
yeah,
get up to
and
that, that
especially during that time. I mean, if you
yeah.
think about between the years of '03 to basically 2012, 13, 14, yeah, you're pushing mad numbers.
Yeah, the ironic part of it all is like, so what they were doing is like for the non-hackers, the people, they were washing them out, getting rid of their contracts and sending them and recycling back into, other training battalions.
Mm,
So I think our platoon started off with like 56. I think we only graduated like 30 from
wow.
basic. So because
Yeah.
all those other guys have been recycled, but then you get used to good dudes, right?
Yeah.
Then so that's the other thing. Now you get used to capable, like, and by capable, I mean, right, like we're cherry fresh fucking privates. Like
Yeah.
we don't know shit,
Yeah.
you
You
know?
aren't capable of
Yeah.
shit.
But I mean, we're not shit, nobody's going to
Yeah.
quit,
Yeah,
and everybody
exactly.
can pull their own weight and is semi competent at the ability level they should be at that,
Hmm.
stage. So you get used to good guys. So when you go back to your unit, you're kind of like, you can identify the shit bags real easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get used to the culture. So where do you go? Where do you go after there? So you go there. I think you go to, is AIT a thing?
So I did OSET, so I went straight through. So
Oh,
you do your basic training, however many weeks that is, and then you move right into your advanced individual training.
okay. Okay.
And so mine was
Okay.
bending all the way through.
Oh, yeah. So you stayed. Yeah, that's right. You stayed on bending yeah. Okay. No. So, I'm assuming that was pretty uneventful, probably. I mean, as far as, does anything stand out in that training, or was that just what?
So, we started the conversation with, was it what you expected? And there are a lot of things after, I would say, my initial basic training that I wish I would have said yes to, and opportunities that knocked, but I was just not there mentally, or, just not prepared to say yes or say like, that's what I want to do, because I had a different vision in my head. But like, so I had a high enough PT score. I was offered airborne school. I initially turned
Mm,
that down. I got
mm,
offered air assault school to stay down there for air assault school, and I turned that down because I was like, no, I'm going to go back, see my folks, and
yeah.
did not plan for that. And I had a high enough PT score, uh, I hit expert marksmanship, stuff like that. So the 75th was down there recruiting, and
Hmm.
they extended an invitation to come out and try out for the 75th Ranger Regiment out in Washington. I turned that down too. And if I'd have known that today, I would have picked up all that stuff early and
Yeah.
went and done the thing, as opposed to what I learned later on in my career as it progressed.
Yeah. I mean, that, and I'm not going to relitigate the story, but yeah, I got screwed out of a recon contract, which wasn't SF, but it was at the
Yep.
time. This was, but like, should I have went? Like I think it was like 2 months later, recon came out to the battalion and was like, "Hey, we're doing NDOC, blah blah blah." And at that time, I had talked to my squad leader, and he was like, "Nah, man, you don't want to watch people. You want to kick doors in." And I'm like, "Okay," but as a young 18-year-old, I was like, "Cool, I want to go kick doors in." You know what I mean? But like,
Yeah.
there's a point where you can look back and say, "Man, I could have veed off in that direction and been a little more." Had a little different of an experience, but all those things are hindsight. But the problem is like you said, when you're 18, 19, you're single track mind, you're focused, and you're like, this is what I want to go do, and I don't want to do anything else.
Yeah.
So what was the first unit you went to? Where were they stationed at?
So it was actually a guard unit out of Iowa,
Okay.
because I
Okay.
wanted to go to college.
Oh,
Found out
okay.
college wasn't for me. So I tried to go to an active duty unit then, and Iowa blocked my orders and said, no, we like you
Mm,
too much. You're staying here.
yeah.
So they kind of, they fed me a carrot, and they threw me on what's called ADOS. And so I was active duty for the guard doing, I did a number of things, I did javelin missile instructor, and then
Mm,
I would train other units on javelin missiles or whatever as they would come in, or I would be, worked recruiting duty for a little bit. Also, any busy work they can put you through, like the simulation range, I don't know if you guys have
yeah.
those, they had
Oh yeah.
the simulators and everything like that. I'd run one of those, or work for range control or something like that. But that's primarily what I did before we shipped
Yeah.
overseas.
So when y'all deployed when you went in '05 to '07, was this with the same guard unit or did you go to another unit to deploy?
No, I went with the same one up on
Okay.
rotation. So this is an infantry unit, guard guys, and we went there. Um, we went to First we went to I think we went to Fort Polk. Did the whole train up NTC, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. That was a 6-month train up, and then we would lead into a total combined of like a 23-month deployment.
God dang, 23 months?
Yeah, well, we got extended during Bush's troop surge for Baghdad, so we literally,
Oh,
I mean, we'll get to that, but rolled through the gate at the
Jesus.
ECP, and they were like, and everybody's high fiving, like, we're done, we did it, we all survived, and they're like, actually, boys, so now we're gonna talk to you.
Yeah, baby. Love it. Okay,
Yeah.
so this '05. So where do y'all deploy to? Because so we invaded in '03. We spent like what, 2, 3, 6 months. Then Bush declared combat operations over on some deck, and he's like, "We won." And then well, that was only the start. So, where'd y'all end up going in Iraq?
So after you get through Ali Al Salim, Kuwait, and all the staging grounds and stuff, we ultimately
Mm-hmm.
landed at Al Asad Air Base.
Al
Um,
Assad.
if you know where Al Asad is, it's kind of just for your listeners like who aren't military. It'd be kind of in between Ramadi, Al Taqaddum, Haditha Dam, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the best way I
So
could put it. Kind of lower central Iraq.
now, what was the mission there on that one? So did y'all stay in Al Assad and run combat operations out of there, or did y'all punch out to a smaller position?
So we our primary mission was to escort supplies in from the Jordanian border, and then we would punch out to smaller cops, and in between Tribil, Jordan, and Al Assad, Al Taqaddum, sometimes Balad, or Fallujah, and then real small ones like Rawa or
Yeah.
Camp Korean Village.
Okay. How old are you at this point?
I would have been 20. Yeah, 20, I think, 2021.
Yeah, I turned 21 in Afghanistan, so yeah, that's
Okay, that's fun.
yeah, yeah, it was. So they offered me a Bex. They were gonna fly it in on a resupply, and I was like, yeah, no, nah, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you get there, you're 20. What's your first impression of Iraq when you get there?
Dude, I was bored out of my mind.
Yeah,
It's all new. Never seen people, culture, anything like that.
yeah,
Not that at first you really interacting with these people so much. But they cut your hair. They're taking your
yeah,
trash out. They're doing your laundry. Al Assad is an air base. And I will say
right.
Air Force bases are the shit when it comes to being stationed somewhere because they have everything.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
we had a Pizza Hut, we had a
man.
Burger King, there was a Subway, all that stuff. So Al Assad there was a full weight room. We didn't have it rough in Al Assad at all. Probably the worst part about it was is we slept in these like camel tents when we
Mm,
first got there because they didn't have a place to put us. So it was just a tent. Dust storms, everything would get in there. So they weren't real sealed up or anything. And but MWRs, they'd have concerts there come in. They'd have Toby Keith was there, Shinedown, things like that. So when you weren't on mission, when
yeah,
you weren't on a mission cycle, it was not rough at all. We had
yeah.
everything you wanted to do there, but yeah, I don't know. It wasn't until you got out, and you actually started interacting with some people and talking to some villagers and things like that. You get to kind of experience the real Iraq. Otherwise, just sitting on post over there was more or less like being on a vacation board. Trying to keep yourself occupied.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I've had a guest who's been to Iraq and Afghanistan, and I asked him the difference, and he talked about a couple of differences, but he mentioned that he was like, man, the living conditions between Iraq and Afghanistan are
No,
wildly
100% different.
different.
100%.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean I mean even because he said that in Iraq you could almost always find like a cold drink. He was like, but you could not in Afghanistan. Now this was where we were, which was way out from the main base. We were out in little bitty, cops. We
Yeah.
wasn't in. Yeah, But again, like on Leatherneck Shore, like they had like a coffee. They had like all kind. They had that kind of stuff, like Al Assad, but probably not as big. But anyway, so how long did y'all stay in Al Assad for?
We were there for a total of, let's see, 6 months, 23 months, 6 months. So 18 months, right around, I'd say.
18 months. So during those 18 months, like how often are you guys doing like rotations out of Al Assad, like doing combat stuff, or are you not doing anything like that at Al Assad?
No, we are. So we're running out of Al Assad, running combat ops or, convoy ops out of there. We are picking up third country national drivers, usually empty trucks on the way out, going, dropping them off the Jordanian border in Terbil, picking up a resupply of whatever supplies are coming in, and then taking them to whatever post. Sometimes a convoy would split, and
Yeah.
some would go to Fallujah, some would go to TQ, some would go back to Al Assad. It all depended on what the manifest was. And then we would run, with any good convoy op, you run your forward rear security elements and stuff like that to try to do that, and main routes we travel is uranium, MSR Mobile, Route Michigan, um, things like that. I would say the first, the IEDs were huge. So IEDs were always a constant threat, but we actually didn't get into any sort of shooting until it was probably towards the end, or closer towards the end, fall of like of '07, would be our first, the other guys had like small little skirmishes,
Yeah.
here or there. But the first time I actually, got into a gunfight or a situation was actually like closer towards the end, like I'd say last 6 months I was there.
Mm. Mm. Okay. One quick question. Like the IED threat that y'all seen out there, was it I mean, were you guys losing trucks,
Yeah.
every
Yeah. All the time.
convoy all the time?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we
Yeah.
had, when we first, it's kind of funny because we were there so long, we saw like 3 iterations of like up armors, and, the red and
Oh
green
wow.
systems came in and stuff like that. When we first got there, I remember stacking extra plates on the floor of the Humvees, just to try to add a little extra armor. And then, things progress. We got the hydraulic powered turrets, and, a few of the trucks were lucky. We had the ASWs, which were an armored security vehicle that had a Mark 19 and a 240 up on you had a turret gunner. It was all, nobody was exposed, they could do it all internally inside the truck. So we went through kind of a phase of all the up armoreds and everything as they kind of rolled into the country. So we lost a lot of trucks. Yeah. We took a few casualties here or there. Again, nobody'd been killed at this point. You guys were driving those like 7 tons, I think they were, with the real
Oh
like 1/4 inch armor on the sides, and you'd throw like 2 squads in the back. I don't know what they
yeah.
were, but
Yeah.
they would get fucked up all the time. I mean, so
Oh
Al Assad would have, a horn that would sound off, and they would call out what blood type was needed, and you run to the aid treatment station. You literally be given blood, because a truck full of Marines just got hit, and there'd be 14, be a mass cas event, so that sort of thing. So you'd do that if you could. But yeah, it wasn't towards the end of the deployment. We actually took, our first KIAs and things like that.
man. So now during this time, like you're 20. You're not married, are you, at this time?
No, nope.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. I just wanted to make sure. So like I mean, are y'all kind of scared? Like because I know the IEDs we didn't like. For me, it almost didn't seem real until the first dude got killed or blown up. Like our first dude that stepped on an IED, we were like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you start to get
It's a
like
wake up
super
call.
nervous.
You think? I mean, You see these people, and I will say Iraq was more, I don't know if you would agree, but more kind of more civilized than Afghanistan. Like even just their
Yeah.
buildings, their roads, everything just was 100 years ahead of Afghanistan. And that's not saying a lot, right? Like these people are
Yeah.
still living in mud walls and things like that. Don't all have plumbing, or I'm not talking about like they're not third world, but they're better than what Afghanistan was. And the yeah, we took our first casualty. I mean, he had to get medevac out of the theater. He lived, but you're just like, holy shit, now it's
Yeah.
real. And then when I got hit, you're always looking, you're never gonna, you do all the training for IEDs and things like that, but I feel like we very probably only caught 5 to 10% of them, just because anything can be a bomb.
Yeah.
And, are you going to stop a 2 mile long convoy, for hours for EOD? I mean, yes, sometimes if you find it, if you don't, and then what if it ends up being trash? You just wasted your whole day, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I'd say we only found 5 to 10% of them. And they seem to just get bigger, bigger, bigger.
Yeah.
Started out with toe poppers, then all of a sudden you're getting the concave shape charges and stuff to try to puncture through the armor. And we were coming back. There was like a fourplex, like a mixed master 4-lane intersection, just in between Ramadi and Al Assad. And we saw a guy. I'm in the forward security element, and I saw a guy go up to one of the jingle trucks at that intersection, shoots the guy in the head, and throws a bomb in the back. Well, we stopped the convoy, cordon, and we're doing that whole shit. And platoon leader goes, like, Macke, you got to find us an alternate route around this thing, because we're not going to sit here waiting for EOD. We'll secure it until they get here, but the rest of the convoy can push through.
Right.
And so I stand up out of the turret, and I'm looking down, trying to spot my driver coming off the road, and boom, boom, it sorry, bomb goes off, hits me in the head with shrapnel. My arm, everything gets peppered, knocks me out. I woke up to my driver, like running his arm through my butt crack, going, "Oh, he didn't shit himself. He's okay." They're like, "Get up and shoot," And I'm getting up, and I couldn't tell you what I was shooting at to this day,
Wow.
because I was still kind of out of it or whatever. Then our truck was disabled, so I cross-loaded over into one of the other vehicles. We ended up going to Al-Taqadim because we were ineffective at that time, and we just happened to jump on a truck, but with the convoy split that was going to Al-Taqadim. And we jump out the motor pool plane, and they're like, "Holy shit, take off your helmet." Took off my helmet. I had shrapnel in the front of my helmet and everything, and I was looking down, like, so it missed my forehead by an inch.
Oh,
And then
man.
they're like, "Holy shit, take off your vest." And because I was standing on the turret, I had another piece of shrapnel that had just gone through my plate and into my shoulder, and they pulled it right out. But it was wild.
Dude, that's one of them close calls where it's like, you ask, like, see, like, I'll ask guys, like, is there ever like a point where you thought you were gonna die? Like, you probably, like, there was no way, like, because you probably didn't even see it coming to happen before you even blinked.
I did not see the explosion at all. It was just 1 minute I'm looking over the right side of my truck, and all of a sudden, like, boom, black,
man,
nothing, black.
dang.
And I remember, this is gonna sound super weird and super superstitious, but I have this memory burns in me. Is I just remember everything being black, and I was like, what happened? And I remember seeing just a pinprick of, like, the brightest white light you'd ever see, that just, I wasn't scared of it. It just kept getting brighter and coming closer, and it felt warm and welcoming. And then it clicked into me like something bad must have happened, and I was like, "Oh shit, don't walk towards that son of a bitch." And it was like I came right out of it.
Wow.
And all of a sudden they're just yelling at me, "Get up, shoot, you're fine." And yeah, but it just sucked me, like, right back into it.
Man.
I don't know how long I was out for, couldn't tell you, but I don't remember the blast at all. But that was
That's
the
wild.
experience I had in that time where I was unconscious.
Yeah. Now, do you remember the days after that, or is that kind of blank? I only ask this because a couple of dudes got blown up. I didn't get, like, blown up, like the truck before, like right on my tail blew up. It knocked me out in an MRAP. But I remember the incident, but then, like, days afterwards, I have no memory. Like, it's just blank. So anyway, I'm just curious.
I remember going to Alta Catum. I don't remember the trip back. It's funny because I didn't think about that till you mentioned something like that. I don't remember coming back to Al Saad. I remember probably 2 days later going to the aid station. They give me some ibuprofen, famous for that,
Yeah.
and said, "I'll take a couple days off. You'll be fine."
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I don't remember a whole lot happening in between that.
That's one thing that I think we're learning more and more about as time goes on is like the concussive blast damage that incidents of like that caused. Because at first everyone's like, "Oh, you're good. Like if you didn't black out, you're good." But like even just not blacking out can, I mean, there's so much damage those explosions do
Oh
to the
yeah,
brain.
yeah. There's so much just shock damage that you don't
Yeah,
even realize it happened.
yeah.
I'll tell you about the one in Afghanistan when we get there, but that one was much more traumatic.
Yeah, well, dang, bro. Like you already got one good getting knocked out by that one. Okay, so you guys get towards the end of the deployment. Now you say it gets more kinetic. So are you guys you said you stayed in Al-Assad for all that time except 6 months. Oh no, I guess I'm skipping something right quick. Did you go home for like 2 weeks at any point during this thing?
Yeah, I did. Mine landed right about the middle,
Oh,
and
okay.
it was pretty
Okay.
standard. Flew home
Okay.
2 weeks, drank some beer, visited buddies, and had a
Yeah.
good time, and then came back.
Yeah, but that didn't feel weird because, like, the Marines, we do 7 months, but it's like 7 months straight. We don't go anywhere.
Yeah,
We just, you know,
nothing really. I mean, we like I said, we took a couple casualties real early, but nothing like
yeah,
life threatening or nobody died. So it wasn't like I guess didn't have that fear yet, or that. I mean, I always like articulated it to my friends. I'm like, it's that arrogant stupidity that nothing's going to happen to me, that
yeah,
kind of your brain goes into that survival mode that you just don't think, well, it's not going to happen to me. Right.
right,
And you do that to protect yourself. So that way you can go out and do your mission. And I think it's a healthy way to cope with it at the time. But I really was in that realm of just like, nope, we got bigger guns, better
yeah,
people. And, it's not going to happen to us. We'll take a few, we'll bang up a few trucks, or
right,
whatever, but nothing really bad had happened at that point. So the only weird part is coming back and, I thought being in 120-degree heat and everything, I was like, I'm conditioned for this. And I came back in August. And what I was not like prepared for physically was just here in Iowa, we get like sweltering humidity. And that
humidity,
stuff hit me
yeah,
like a truck.
yeah,
So,
yeah. That's funny, interesting. Yeah, like I mean, you're right. Yeah, like we have to have that crazy mindset because like that's the only way infantry dudes run towards the gunfire is if you have the
yeah,
attitude that it's not going to be me. It's just
dude.
not going to be
And
me.
another thing too is, I woke up I never go because we had, we were talking about like kind of, some non-hackers and things like that in boot camp. And you get that to your unit and you see those guys. And we had a few guys even prior to deployment that did dumb shit. Like one guy shot himself in the leg with a nail gun. I won't mention any names, but
Holy
shot
shit!
himself in the leg with a nail gun to try to get out of deployment. Another guy was
Wow.
like drinking mouthwash and doing all sorts, like trying to get back. And I never understood that mindset because I was like, why would you want to train, go through all that sweat, tears, and everything as hard as that shit is, all the schools and everything like that, to not want to go to the big show and employ it,
Yeah,
why would you talk to any NFL player? I bet they're like, no, I just hope we just, run a 17 game season and we're out, no, every
yeah.
team wants to go to the Super Bowl. That's the goal,
That's
right?
right.
Like, so that's where my mind was, I was just like, I woke up every single day hoping to get into an engagement every
Yeah,
single day.
yeah.
It was, fuck around and find out, I'm ready
Well,
for it.
you did this is yeah, if I remember right, this was a reserve unit, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, maybe there were a couple of them guys that were just like they didn't think it would ever happen because the recruiter lied to them and was like, "It's a reserve unit, homie. You're never going to deploy."
Yeah, but now, I mean, not at that time. Not at that time. I mean,
Yeah, I guess
multiple,
so.
we're late enough in the game, multiple guard units, multiple states, everybody's deploying.
Yeah,
So I don't buy well, no, I didn't, I didn't sign up for this crap. Yeah, you did, especially you want to be
yeah,
infantry. What do you think you're going
yeah.
to do?
But that's the thing is like because you find the guys that did the opposite where they did 4 years in the infantry and they never got to go to the big show. And like I feel sorry for those guys because it's like that sucks. Like
Yeah, it would
because
suck.
Yeah, because you do, like you said, you do all that training, all that bullshit. And it's like me and the guy talked about 2 episodes ago. Like, we were like, bro, the only, like, the good shit that happened in combat, the super fun, adrenaline, scary stuff, it's only 3% of your entire experience in the infantry, you
Yeah.
know?
But when you get through one of those experiences and you're successful with, overwhelming firepower and everything like that, it is the biggest, like, most
Oh,
addictive thing on the earth. Like,
yeah.
you're just like, let's do that again.
When
It's
it
the close
works,
ones. It's like,
oh,
yeah.
yeah, it's beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. Towards the end of it, like, things are getting kinetic, right? Like, we're changing our patterns, our TTPs, things
Yeah,
like that in order to switch, IED threats and everything up, try not to do the same thing over and over.
right.
By this point, we had taken our sister company, Bravo Company, had taken one really serious casualty. No, but it
Mm.
was us. Sorry, it was us. It's been 20 years. It was us. Took a really bad IED hit. Really, screwed this guy up, broke his back, and messed him up. And we're all
Oh,
one for blood. So it happened at an intersection that we know where they like to put stuff. So we did do some offensive operations, going out there sitting at night, using thermal sights and stuff like that, and then calling in artillery when they were there, or having our snipers set up,
yeah.
trying to pop these guys going in the middle of the night and placing. So we did that, and then towards the end of it, we, as part of a forward security element, we happened to run up on two dudes, like 2 or 3 dudes, and placing an IED. We
Mm.
give chase. They roll us out and do a 3-sided ambush. Gunfire's going, those ASWs or ASVs that I was telling you about, those automated turrets, Mark 19s, everything.
Mm.
They
Yeah.
were so close to us that those trucks could not orient their weapons low enough to shoot.
Oh, shit.
So our dudes just started running them over. Just took that thing and used it like a big battering and just started hitting bodies. Gunfire's going on. We lose 2 guys. One of my good friends, he caught $1 million round. Never would happen again. It was a ricochet that came through like the 2 inches of his armor on top, hit the top of the Humvee, ricocheted up, caught him up through the jaw,
Mm.
and dead instantly. I'm not going to mention their names out of respect, because I don't want to speak for their families or anything, but another one of our squad leaders, he gets out to shoot. He dismounts the vehicle to go in and shoot and pulls his arm up, and he's right-handed. The elbow comes up in the air, and he doesn't see that it's a 3-sided ambush, and the other guy pops him again straight through like the armpit, no chance of stopping, and he's done. In the confusion of all this, like after we've wiped everybody, I'm thinking it's a great day for America. I didn't know we had casualties. I was just like, it was one of those moments where you're just like, it's over, and you're just like, yes, we got him.
Yeah.
One on my turret, and my driver was he was a Canadian national, and I'm like, just stay in the truck. I'm gonna go down. Start, we haven't crossed our LOA yet, so we start searching bodies and things like that. You going through your battlefield process, and one of the dudes was hit. He was hit, grazed in the head. He's still alive, and as I'm walking to him, I step over my buddies, and I was like, what the hell is going on? They're like, nope, we took 2, they're over there. Medevac's coming in to haul them out, but we need to get, to flex cuff bad guys and do that sort of shit. So go over there and do that. And now I'm like, so like I said, one of them was my really good friend. Now I'm just like, I'm so incredibly mad. Like, I can't describe it as dad. I don't think I've ever reached a point of rage in my life that I just wanted to choke everybody. And I go over to the guy who's still alive, shot in the head. And one of the squad leaders is like, you got to give him CLS. And I'm like, fuck that. Like, I'm not saving this dude's life. We haven't crossed our line of advancement. Let me fucking put 2 in his head and be done with it. And we get into a verbal, semi-physical fight over if I'm going to do this or not. And my lieutenant rolls up, and he goes, Macke, what's his status? And I said, he's in the last stages of death, sir. And he goes, all right, here's a body bag. We know you're finished. So handle it that way. And I throw in the bag, and I'm dragging the bag up to my truck. And I can see Chris was the name of my driver. You don't have to edit that out or anything, but his eyes are like, the size of saucers. And I grab this body bag, and I throw it with this insurgent in it, and I throw it on top of the Humvee, like on the hood, like a deer. I said, we're rednecks, throw it on top like a deer. And he looks at me, and he goes, what's going on? And I said, get out. And I ordered him out of the vehicle. And I said, get on the gun. He gets on the gun, and I drive up to the LZ where we're collecting these guys, and I slam on the brakes and I let the body roll forward onto the ground. And I get out, and I drag it up, and I said, "Here's this motherfucker," and I drop him off. Well, so we were heading in between that Camp Korean Village. That was a small Marine outpost that we would stop before we entered Jordan in. So we're so shot up. We're mission ineffective. We got like 3 or 4 disabled trucks. And so we're stuck. We don't have enough wreckers to haul us out. So, and one of the dead insurgents too also has a pop pineapple grenade underneath of him because he was trying to throw it in our turrets.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we still have live ordnance. And so these Marines get dispatched out of CKV with wreckers and stuff to come recover us. And you remember those old Wiley X goggles with the bands, that sticks.
Mm-hmm.
So I had one pair. I had those on, of course. I'm a gear queer. I had those on, and they're just filling up with tears, because now it's kind of hitting me. And this Marine, and I'm not saying anything bad. It's not the fact that he's a Marine. It wouldn't matter if it was anybody coming out of that wrecker. He comes up to me and he's like, just with this grin on his face, and he's like, "Hell of a fucking day, huh?" And he's like grinning and slaps me on the shoulder, and it was just the wrong thing to say to me at that time.
Yeah.
I took my goggles and I dumped my tears out of it, and then I just hit him. Just punched him in the face, and we end up, in a little sprawl and whatever. They get us, everybody separated. We're getting vehicles out of there, and I was the only one there with a functional Mark 19. EOD couldn't get out to come take care of the grenade with the guy, so my commander's like, just shoot him till he blows up. So that's how we cleared. And then we RTB'd.
Man, that was an insane mission. Like, so when you get back from that, like, I mean, the problem is in country, especially, is the op tempo doesn't stop. So when something like that happens, it's like, okay, yeah,
you're rolling out the next day.
You're moving, man. It's just the mission goes on.
So this is real fucked up too. So the next morning, we're doing our morning briefing, going to head into Jordan the very next morning. And we're getting our briefing or whatever. And I Rochambeau with my driver to see who's going to be on the gun that day. Typically it was me 99% of the time, but I just was like, I need a day. Let me drive the truck. You can be on the gun. I lost. So I roll up on the gun. And so we're pulling these trucks back out to get back onto the convoy, the highway. And I'm in a blocking position. We have those signs on the back. You pop flares, your escalation of force, and all that night. A truck that was coming at me. So I run through my complete escalation of force, fire flares, fire warning shots, do all that. This dude's not stopping. I let him get so close because I was like so scared to not scared to shoot, but I was like scared to be wrong. Yeah, because they'd hang you for it. That I'm on comms with my driver. I'm like, go, 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 hit the gas, because he's going to ram us. And so then I just start dumping my saw into 30-round burst head level into the truck and then the engine block and everything. And I'm about to hit the Mark 19 when the truck finally stops and door opens up. Dude in a man dress. I see a slump and he gets out and boom, it's all bloody. He falls on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
My commander, not knowing the situation, comes up to my truck and he's like, "What the fuck?" He's like, "Does that look like a fucking threat to you?" He doesn't know we had to move. He doesn't know any of that, what we had to do. Well, I find out, there was a bomb in the back. It was a V-bid. Mm-hmm. So I ended up just wiping him out. That dude ends up dying. But the next morning, just because of what had happened the day before, I got investigated by JAG over the whole shooting. They wanted to know exactly what we went through and everything like that. And it was my driver who, when they slid that yellow eagle pad across, and they're like, "We need your statement," he wrote down, the only words he wrote down were, "He didn't fucking shoot soon enough." And that major was like, "I thought we're done here. You guys are good. Go back to work." Yeah. So we got out of that. But yeah.
I mean, that's interesting, because you're right. I mean, I can't say, I'm sure looking back now, you'd say Jag probably wasn't wrong, as to what had happened the day before and then the next day. And, hey, but I mean, if there was a bomb in the truck, that Jag shouldn't have even looked at that. They should have been like, it was a good shoot.
Let me back this statement up too, right? Like, so I wasn't the one that exploited the truck. I was the one that did the shooting. I got it. So I had heard that there was a bomb in the truck, is what the Marines who got dispatched out for QRF came to us and had told me.
Yeah.
So I didn't physically see that. So whether there was, there wasn't, the details of that, I don't know what it was, but that's what another Marine told me, or Marine told me. So I don't know exactly what it was, but that was my belief anyways. And it didn't matter. It wouldn't have mattered if the truck was clean. I mean, it was well within the escalation of force.
Oh, yeah.
Engagement. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Did y'all have the pin flares?
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
Those
those
things were
things were
such
sweet.
pieces of shit.
Really? I liked them. You can shoot at
Yeah.
people real well. I got pretty damn good with those things.
Yeah. No, they were fun. Like they were fun to play with, but like I don't know that just okay. Okay. I guess I'm gonna have to stop and explain this because most of okay, so for those of you Civ people listening, a pin flare is like a tiny pin. If I remember right, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt. Is it's got like a little thumb thing, and you move it over, you pull it back, and let it go, right? And it shoots a flare.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
it's just
right,
a little spring
yeah,
loaded
but
firing pin. Yeah, and it's
okay.
got, that safety is just that little loop that it sits in, and then you just
Mm-hmm.
knock it down below that, let it go, and it fires.
But here's my problem. Okay, when you're 19 years old, 20 years old, you've never seen combat before, you're in the gun truck. You don't practice. I don't know about y'all, but we didn't practice shooting pin flares in training. But like, think about it. The dude starts to come at you. You're trying to go through your escalation of force. You're already freaking out. Your heart rate's accelerating because you're like, could this be it? Could this be it? This is the one, that, and I don't know. It just, but the first thing that drops when when you get into fight or flight is your small motor skills. That's the only reason I didn't like it because it just felt like it was too much manipulation with small motor, in a survival situation. But again, like I said, it is what it is. But I don't know.
We didn't practice with them either.
Yeah.
We didn't practice with them either, and you're right. I just remember it was a process, right? Like I had my M4
Yeah.
on the side of the turret, because you always had to use that before you had to use your primary one, because you wave your flag, right? That orange
Right.
flag, wave the orange flag, then you move to flares, then you move to warning shots, then you move to disabling shots, and then you move to kill shots.
Right.
So, yeah, you're right. Your heart rate's going, and that whole process might take a minute and a half. It might take 20 seconds. Just depends on how fast the vehicle's moving, what the situation is, or whatever,
Exactly.
And it might skip from any of those. It might be an oh shit moment where it's like, I don't have time for a flare. I'm going straight to warning shots.
Right.
You just got to be able to, work through that. But I don't know about the motor skills thing. I know I'm an ALICE instructor. I'm an alert instructor for active shooting and stuff for law enforcement. And so we teach that, your fine motor skills are going down. But I'll tell you what, like in all the engagements and all of the high stress situations, I haven't had any of that fail me. In fact, I got like super focused, like to where I knew exactly what I was doing. It's like my training kicked in. I never had a problem with my selector switch or any of that other small stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, because I feel like too that like every high stress situation I ever was in, like this also happened in training where I look down and I'm like, did I put my gun on safe? And you look back down and it's on safe. Not because because you thought about it, because it was just natural reflex. But they say that that's why we trained repetition is because when you have to do it, you don't have to think about it. Those small motor skills don't matter because it's just reflex at that point, So what month did you get back?
Oh boy.
If you don't remember, it's cool.
It's probably like July-ish in summertime.
Okay.
Now probably July-ish. Yeah.
Are you at this time? This is still a reservist unit. So when you get back, do you go active or do you stay in the reserves?
So this time I'm coming up on my contract, right? It's coming up, and now I'm like, screw you guys. Like I'm going active, or I'm doing. Now it's my time. I know what the military's about. I've been in deployment. I got things figured out. What I want to do, and I also during that Iraq time too was trying to get a Ranger school slot. Because your battalion will have a few, that they get allotted to them. And I was trying to get one of those spots, and I kept getting like, no, we're not sending anybody. Right now we don't have them available. Okay, so they love, I'm sure big army, every unit, every branch is the same, but like when you're coming up on contract, they love to throw things at you.
Oh yeah,
to retain you. And I was like, fine. If you want me to stay in, I want Pathfinder, Air Assault. I want I want Ranger contract. I want Ranger school. I want all things, And they were like, okay, yeah, well, battalion just got 5 spots, for Ranger school. We'll give one to you, whatever. And how do you feel about going to the LURS? Now, the LURS was completely different than it's still infantry, but they're long range, like recon for Marines, right? But it's a long range surveillance operations. So sniping, things like that. Different than Cav Scouts, different than a scout platoon out of a headquarters company. These guys just snoop and poop intel, gather, snipe, try to identify, high value targets. They develop patterns of life for, counterinsurgency operations, things like that. These are dudes who know what they're doing.
Mm.
And they're all tabbed. You have to be within a year, I think, is what the unit requirement was. And so, but you have to
Okay,
go through
explain tabbed, because I got a bunch of crayon eaters. I think a lot of my listeners
so
are
tab
Marines.
means you have to be Ranger qualified.
Okay, now hold on. Let me clarify this too, because being a Ranger, Ranger school is different from 75th Ranger Regiment,
Yes,
right?
that's correct.
Okay. All right. No, I'm not taking anything away from Ranger School. Ranger School's an accomplishment, but I just want so people don't get confused and be like, how can you be this and a Ranger at the same time? You know what I mean? So, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Kind of it would have been kind of a similar mission to a regimental. Like they were scrolled.
Yeah.
So I don't know where in terms of, how they fell within regimental battalion. I don't know that. That wasn't me. I just know that these dudes were much more high speed than what I had been with,
Yeah.
And so that was what I was looking to do, like some real infantry shit, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be pushing convoys and,
Oh, yeah.
doing all this crap. I want to go out and find the bad guys and get them, or identify them so other people kill them, So, but you got to pass a selection for them, which that was a really, that was a tough school, or a tough requirement. They really kind of beat the crap out of you with that. But you have to be proficient, like with like land nav is a big one. Your common tasks, procedures, things like that, weapons knowledge. You have to be proficient in everything, and they test you on all of it. And that was the first time, like, I guess I've been, where they like people that can think outside the box, to where when we're running these ops, when they're giving us the task, purpose, the mission or whatever, we're running these mock missions. They're like, hey, dumbasses, you guys are writing the op words for this, right? Yeah. And they're like, isn't that shit you're carrying heavy? Do you really need a poncho liner? Do you really need your Kevlar? Do you want to roll patrol caps? Like, you guys are writing this. We're not telling you to do this. And we're going, oh shit, we can tailor this thing like we're big kids, like
we could take gear away.
Exactly. Yeah. We can only take the stuff that we really need.
Right.
And so that was, and then you have to pass a board interview, with the commanders and everything like that. And then they come out and tell you if you were selected for the spot or not. And I was selected. And so that was a really good, brief period of my time. I really liked that unit, really liked the mission, and kind of the energy of being with guys that knew their shit. That was probably the biggest thing for me. Was I dealt with, the shit bags, and having had to, that you had to keep going along with you.
Yeah.
And now I'm just with guys that know their shit.
Professionals.
And professionals that wanted to push everybody harder, better, do things. And I was like, this is where I want to be.
That had to be awesome. That had to have been. Yeah, that's one of those things where you're just like, okay, yeah. Like, I'm surrounded by real hard dudes who are all committed. There's nobody here that doesn't want to be here. And you almost wish the infantry could do that. You almost wish, because the infantry is just too big. It just has to be, and you just wish that sometimes the platoon sergeant would say, there's the door. And if you don't want to be here, get the fuck out. And
I don't want to trash talk a conventional unit, right?
Oh yeah, no.
Because we definitely, some of my best friends, came.
Oh
from,
yeah.
I mean, God, dudes, I would die for it. I mean, there is a cohesion there, but it's just you got to deal with those little problems and those the dynamic within that. Whereas here, it was just like everybody's good to go. I don't have to check on so and so having their nods or whatever because he knows what we're doing. So just different environment.
No, it is. I mean, I started this podcast out of I don't know if you know this, but I started this podcast out of not wanting to hear any more special operations stories from other, because I'm like, don't get me wrong, like the special operations community and those small units that are, they're slick, they're fast, they're full of great guys who, high selection process. But the problem is those guys get most of the credit for a lot of the stuff that we do. And, like you said, I mean, the line units, the conventional units, man, those are great guys and they're filled up with the dudes that change your oil and those normal ass dudes.
And they're committed. They sacrifice everybody sacrifices.
We executed the war.
Yeah. And, a lot of them have, I'm glad you're doing this because, a lot of them, you know, have really great stories to tell, but,
Yeah.
won't get the platform and won't get a voice because they don't, well, they're not special forces, and nobody
Yeah.
doesn't draw an audience, like,
Yeah.
Hollywood doesn't
Sean
like
Ryan.
regular dudes, they like Marcus
Yeah.
Luttrell's, they like those guys. So, it
Yeah.
doesn't get a lot of attention, but it's not for a lack of commitment or effort or
No.
professionalism.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I don't want to, I don't ever, I mean, but you're right, and sometimes the infantry's got to come to that realization that yes, we were badass, but we wasn't we wasn't as badass. A lot of us it's like Marines. Marines love to talk about how great we are, but at the end of the day, we know that all the other branches are just as committed. Maybe not as crazy, maybe not as stupid as we were, but we're all there together.
Yeah.
In some giant shit pot. Okay, so how long so you get selected, but how long do you stay with these guys for?
So I was only with them. So they disbanded funding is what happened.
Oh, no
Yep.
way.
So they a unit that had been there for, years. They
Man.
disbanded because of funding. So we all get kicked back to line units. Now I've already signed another contract and I'm like, okay, and guess what didn't happen? I didn't get the schools,
Yeah.
because it was my battalion commander that I went back to. I was, because this is when I went to 168th then.
Mm,
And he didn't really like me. I don't know why. Uh,
yeah.
I just don't know why. I don't know if he felt threatened or if, it was a personality thing. I don't know. I got along great with our sergeant major,
Yeah.
but for whatever reason, he just didn't. I wasn't his favorite person. And so he understood that I was like, they were kind of on the hook for giving me that ranger school slot. And he goes, okay, Mackie. He's like, all right. He goes, tell you what, he goes, I will give you that slot. He goes, but you have to meet the standard, which I was already prepared for, right? Like just a standard to get in, right? Like you got to pass a land nav class, or a land nav test. You got to, oh shit, what is it? Like a PT test, but it's like a 5 mile run instead of a 2 mile
Yeah.
run. You got to do it under 35 and whatever. And he goes, oh no, he goes, we're changing the battalion standards on this now. He goes, so in the ranger school requirement, I think was like 35 minutes of the time for 5 miles, which I know you Marines run 3 miles in 18 minutes. You're all crazy. I'm short. I'm muscly. I can carry a ton of shit, but I cannot run. So
Yeah.
35 minutes for me is struggling, right? Like I'm hoping I can get it in 33,
Yeah.
and he knocks the battalion standard down to sub 30. And there was no way that there probably, if I'd had more time to work on it then, but I was prepared to run that 32, 33. And I just didn't,
Yeah.
I missed it by like a minute and a half. And he's like, oh, sorry, that negates the agreement, get back in line. So I did that.
Now, okay, so in the Army, I have a cross deck question. All right.
Sure.
In the Marine Corps, we have a lore. Okay. The lore is that anytime that the Marine Corps screws you or fucks you, which we like to say, that it is the cause of the green weenie. And we have cartoons of the green weenie. The green weenie has a lot of fans. And so anyway, is there like a common slang in the Army, or do y'all say the same thing?
Oh, we say the same thing. It's always the big green weenie.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was just wondering because I've
big
never
green
heard an
weenie.
Army guy say it.
Yep. Oh, that's what we said.
Yeah. So you got by the green weenie, and
Yep.
yeah, man, God, and this is kind of that harking back to early in the conversation when you had said that there were decisions that you look back on now that you're like, dude, if I'd have went that route early, like you said, airborne, and some of that other, you would have never been in this situation.
Yeah, 100%. If I'd have had the knowledge, like the base knowledge of just how things functioned, I would have done so many things differently at an earlier time in my life, not to avoid deployment, but I would have built my resume up and deployed the way I wanted to deploy.
Right. Yeah. Now, real quick, have you ever like, because it's so, for example, my parents own a restaurant locally, and they had a busboy up front. It's a Southern buffet thing. But anyway, they have a busboy or bus girl. There was a busboy that wanted to join the Marines, and he's like, and he came to me because he's like, hey, your dad said that, you joined the Marines. He was like, can you give me any advice? And I'm like, bro, sit down. Like, sit
Yeah.
down, grab a cup of coffee. We're about to talk for like 45 minutes, because I'm like, I'm going to tell you how to not get screwed. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And do you ever like, give people advice and you're just like, yes, I'm going to tell you how to not end up like me.
Yeah. No, I absolutely. I had a cousin, lives in Georgia, as a matter of
No.
fact. And he was considering joining the army. And I'm like, all right, dude. And he's like, hey, he came to me and he's like, well, what should I do or what should I expect or whatever? And I was like, all right, yeah, same thing. I'm like, I'm going to call you. We're going to sit down. I'm going to educate you. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, I feel like I owe it to these young guys to be like, go in prepared, man. Like, don't go in and just squander it away. I'm like, you better walk in that recruiter's office and be like, this is what I want, deal or no deal, bro. Like,
yeah.
But
And, and realize that things are possible even if you get told no. Like there's,
that's right.
just because somebody says no to you does not mean that they're not under or there's not a way to go the back door or
Yeah.
like I think it's like SFAS packets. Like if anybody can drop one of those at any point in time, and there's not shit. The unit's supposed to say anything about it. Did not know that until afterwards.
Yeah, and there's and to be honest, like there is a real culture of higher ups in the military that will can orders or can packages and then lie to young guys and just be like, no, like, because they either they don't want to deal with the paperwork or they don't want to lose manpower. That I don't know what it is, but like there's a legit, it happens where they're just like, no, and then you come to find out they were like, yeah, we could have did that. I don't know.
I bet more of that goes on than the average dude knows.
Yeah, probably. So you end up going to what, 168 is what you said?
Yeah, yep.
Okay, where's that at?
Same place, different battalion.
Oh, so it's still in Iowa.
Yeah, still in Iowa. It's just a matter of what end of the state you're on.
Are you living like with your parents still, like at the house?
No. So at this point, sorry, I'd gotten married in between Iraq and Afghanistan.
Okay. All right. How old were you when you got married?
Oh, 23.
23.
Yeah.
Okay. No, it's cool, man. I got married at 20. So.
Oof. Ouch.
Yeah. No, I'm still married to the same woman.
Congratulations. Good for you.
Oh, man.
It's not a good thing for me.
Well, yeah, it's been a wild ride, but anyway, we'll get into that. Okay, so you got any kids at this point?
I do not. No.
Okay, and then in, let's see, 2010. So you get to this unit. How many years do you do here before you go to Afghanistan?
So
it's a while.
Yeah, I do a couple years.
Yeah,
2-3 years, something like that. Like maybe just shy of 3.
Yeah. So were they just not going to Iraq, or was it just, because I feel like for Marine Corps units and see, the Army has so many bases and so many units, like Marines it's hard for us to fathom, bro. We only have like 4 places we can go. We can go East Coast, we can go West Coast, we can go to Hawaii, or we can go to Japan. And then every infantry unit deploys every 2 years. Like every 2 years you're on rotation. So
yes. So it works similarly.
Okay.
So the prior to the 133rd, which is what I went to Iraq with, the 168th was in Afghanistan. So it was kind of the same thing, like, right? Like they took the first one, right? Came home, then 133rd flops over to Iraq. Now we're coming up for another deployment cycle.
Okay. Well, at least y'all didn't get mixed in with boat rides, because that's how Marines get screwed. So like a battalion will go on a MEU, and then so that's basically a boat ride. We go on an LHD, drink booze in all the foreign countries like Thailand and shit.
Well, that sounds like fun.
Oh, it sounds great. Yeah, bro. That was my first deployment. It was awesome. I was 18 years old in Thailand, just throwing them back, dude. It was a great time, but you're out there training to be infantry, and then you realize like we're not going to see any combat on this deployment. So that kind of sucks. So, but you get slated to go to Afghanistan. Where do y'all go in Afghanistan?
So in the interim to deploying, like coming back out of the lurch and everything and whatever. So now I'm just stacking up schools, anything I can get. Okay. So like I go to God, what's it called? I got the stupid folder right here in front of me.
Brought the homework, dude.
No, I was just literally sitting here. I don't know why I have this. It was the Joint Improvised Explosive Device Defeat Organization, JAAC. I don't know. Anyways, go to some IED schools, go to some technical schools. I already got like WLC, got my 5. Went to the Warrior Leadership course, things
Mm,
like that. So I'm stacking schools as much as I can, what they'll give me.
yeah.
Um, and then we find out we're deploying, and we start that cycle. Um, Train up for that was not JRTC down in Fort Polk like it was for Iraq. We actually went to NTC out in California.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so we went there. Based out of Camp Shelby, Mississippi initially, and then we went to NTC rotation, and then we deploy, and we got into Bagram is where we first came into, and then um, we were the first reservist unit, guard unit to ever own battle space, I think, in
Oh,
Afghanistan,
wow.
to actually own our own battle space. So we were on a very small comp in the Paktia province, just right down from the Hindu Kush on RC East,
Man. Okay. So the
just
pack.
north of Helmand.
Okay. So just north of Hellman. Okay. Yeah. So we were on, we were in a place called, the problem with Afghanistan, they got too many damn names. And if I say the Helmand province, that's too huge. So like we were in in the northern end of the Helmand, I think. And at the north end of our AO, there was like mountains. So you guys must have been up in the mountains. Like you
We were
were,
right at so I didn't know exactly what you're talking about. We were at the base of those mountains that you could probably
okay.
see. Or,
Okay.
it's the military. We don't build
Yeah.
bases on top of mountains. We make them fatal funnels and build in the valleys.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so you're in Bagram. Where do you fly? I'm assuming you flew through a bunch of smaller spots to get to where you were, or did you fly straight out of Bagram to Paktia?
We went, my memory serves me correctly, I believe we flew into Salerno
Okay.
first, from Bagram, Salerno. We took Chinooks out
Yeah.
to Ramankel.
Yeah. I love the Chinook, man.
Yeah,
That's
I do too.
man, like the Marine Corps had the smaller version, the 46, and so we were a helo company. So when I first joined, we did a lot of fast roping, and I fell in love with the 46. So when they finally got rid of it for the V-22, the tilt rotor Osprey, it was a sad day.
You guys have,
Sad day.
I rode in a few Marine helicopters with those, I don't know, remember the nomenclature, but they're called the Sea Stallion.
Yeah, the CH-53 Sea Stallion.
Yes, yeah, we rode in a few of those.
Yeah. Do you
Those
like
things are
them?
huge. I mean, I don't know. It's a helicopter, right? You're not walking.
Well, see, I never had the pleasure of riding in a Chinook. Like I said, I rode in the baby version of it, the 46, but I never actually got to ride in a Chinook. So, I've been in the 53, the V-22, I've been in basically everything, but except the Chinook. So, yeah. But we used the hell out of them in the northern side of Afghanistan because they were the only helicopter that could get to that altitude, from what I understand.
Yeah, I mean, love Chinooks. They got a lot of power. You'd be surprised
Yeah,
if they could lift on a sling load or anything like that. But or the amount of dudes they can carry.
yeah,
Um, they were the only things that ever came in for resupply, or if somebody was
yeah.
leaving, or transport or anything like that. They were the only thing we ever, except for we had a few. We called them jingle birds, and I don't know
Mm,
what they were. But I'm assuming like Chechnyan pilots. And they were
interesting.
these old cargo helicopters that I think the Russians had there when they were like from the 70s, 80s. And they would come in, and those things, and the pilots, I don't know if they were drunk on vodka, I don't know, but these things were like grade A pieces of shit. And they would rattle. They only get to about 13,000 feet altitude. Like that's the highest I ever went in them. But they're fire blanketing, and everything like that. You can look up through
Oh,
and see all the rotors and everything like that work. You can see sky through the roof. These things are ancient. And
man.
we had to roll around those a few times, and it was like they just rattle and shake side to side. I mean, I was like scared to shit every time I had to get
Man.
home.
I can't believe they let y'all ride in them things. That feels like a liability, dude.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I don't know who they were, who was flying them, who whatever, but they weren't ours. But they were not safe.
What was your first impression of Afghanistan? So you've been in Iraq.
Mhm.
It's only three shades of the same color right here on this MRAP behind me. And so, I mean, like Afghanistan's different because, especially when you get to the northern end of the Helmand or into the, in the Wadis, the green zones, it's a beautiful country. So like, what's your impression, especially the versus Iraq on like how it looked and first impressions?
Well, my first impression was like you were going into the Wild West, right? Like it was, with the exception of Bagram, which Bagram's huge. I didn't see a whole lot of,
Hmm.
but when you're out up there, I mean, if you see somebody with a car, they're a rich person.
Yeah.
It's a completely different. I mean, you feel like you just time traveled back 150 years.
Yeah.
People are still subsistence farming, and they got their herd of goats and geese, whatever, and they're just living in their own little farm with their winter wheat and growing and everything, and then, like you said, like I was gonna say this, and I'm glad you agree, because when you get up into the mountains, then you get in those mountains. The Hindu Kush mountains are gorgeous. They are.
Yeah.
And when
Man.
you get up into the mountains, the high altitude lakes, the wildlife, I thought it was in the basin ground. I thought it was kind of ugly country, like you said, same color as that
Hmm.
MRAP behind you. Very brown and not a whole lot going on, a lot of mud huts and things like that. But when you get into the vegetation, the altitude, stuff like that, I thought it was a gorgeous country. The rock outcrops and rivers and
Yeah.
things like that. Yeah.
Honestly, man, like I've said this multiple times on the podcast, and I'll say it again. If they ever get their shit
Oh,
together,
I would
I
travel
would
there.
love to travel back and go north, man. Like, because for me, I didn't get to go up there. I've seen lots of pictures, videos, and like but yeah, I mean, yeah, man, what a beautiful country. I mean, it is amazing, but rugged and like what you're saying, like you can't get to these places. Like,
The Do you remember? It was prior to my deployment there, but do you remember where the Rangers and SF got all shot to shit? And they had the Taliban had like artillery guns built into the side of the mountain. It's like the Shaikat Valley.
I've heard of it, but yeah, yeah.
They wrote books on it. I mean, it was a big operation. I can't remember what the operation's name is, but that's where we were. It was right there,
Wow.
right in that valley,
Okay. Man. Yeah,
or
that's
just down from it. But
yeah.
I was trying to kind of pinpoint the location if you would have known that. But
Or how far were you from the Pakistan border?
oh,
A ways? I mean, if you
we weren't right on it. No, we weren't right on it. We were, I don't know, maybe 15 clicks.
oh, dad, that's pretty close, man. I
I
mean,
mean, we never went that way,
you're right, 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 right. Yeah.
because it's an international boundary and we had no reason to go there.
Oh, yeah, of
So
course.
I never
Yeah.
saw the border or anything, but we were kind of, I think we were closer than that. I had to look at the map.
Yeah. So when you guys get to where you're going, what's the well, okay, I'll ask two questions at the same time. One, what's the threat level look like, and what's the operation look like? Because you're in such rugged terrain. Are you guys doing only like because some of the other guys that I've had on that have been up north like that said that you couldn't even really do vehicle convoy patrols. It was pretty much almost always foot patrols.
Yes, I would say primarily foot patrol. So
Okay.
it was it was like, first I was like, finally, like we get to do real kinetic stuff here.
Yeah.
We get to go decide our missions plan. We own the battle space, right? Like we get to decide how we want to work in our AO and who's
Yeah.
operating and how we're going to do it.
That's cool.
So the unit, and I think it was part of the 82nd Airborne, the unit we replaced was a company of guys and they were scared shitless. I'm not talking shit
Mm.
about the 82nd.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm here for. I'm not bashing on them, but I can tell those guys, they hold up in the cop and they
Yeah.
didn't venture too far out, 5 clicks. And they were like, nope, don't go out. You're going to get fucked up. And I think the way it was like put to us was during our transition briefing and everything. They're like, do not go north of the O8 grid line. Do not go north of that. You'll get into an engagement. So we played along with there because they're kind of showing us the ropes. We played along with them for the couple weeks they were there showing us everything. Yeah. Very first mission, commander calls up, says, we're going north of the O8 grid line. Like, let's go do these guys. And so mission one. So I've got a kind of a rookie first sergeant. Not a bad dude, just a rookie, not hadn't deployed, or had reclassed, over to infantry. And we get up north of the OA grid line, and I see kids spotting us out of a school, and that's what they were ranging us. And we're on foot. We did have a couple vehicles. We did have a couple MRAFs that were able to maneuver off to our north. And, all of a sudden, there is an unmistakable sound that comes from a firing mortar tube.
Oh, yeah.
Where you hear that,
Yep.
at a distance. And I'm like, fuck, they're shooting mortars at us. And my squad leader, first sergeant, were both standing up with their heads up, whatever. And I grabbed my first sergeant and I pulled him down behind this mud wall. And he goes, and mortar goes off, and it was off maybe 50 meters, and all of a sudden, second one pops off, just boom, and this one sounded different. This one, I was like, this one's on the money. And he stands up again, and I grab him and I pull him down. I've got him by his body armor, and I'm him down on the ground. And this thing went off on the other side of the wall that we were on. Now, this wall was like a 2.5 foot rotten mud wall, that I'm just literally could hide a body behind. And it went off on the other side. Squad leader. So this is what I'm talking about. Just guys, no action, right? Just don't know. He looks at me and he's like, "What do we do?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? What the fuck do we do? They're bracketing us. They're bracketing us. They're firing and bracketing us." I said,
"Yeah, they're bracketing."
And I'm like, fucking. So I scream out. I'm like, 200 meters, 9 o'clock. Fucking move your asses. Get on the radio. Tell them. Then they start bracketing the trucks, and I'm like, move the fucking trucks. Let's maneuver.
Yeah.
We didn't even get kill zone. That was the engagement for the day. We didn't ever shoot, no shots fired or anything like that. But we got back to base and everybody was kind of joking about it. I'm like, so, good thing I was there. Yeah. The only one with my head in the game. I was the only one had recently deployed, and I'm like, you can't believe it took 2 or 3 rounds for you guys to realize what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, that was day one.
You're not. So what? It's funny you should say. Yeah, there's no dig on previous units like that. It was the same, dude. It was the same thing when we got to our position in Afghanistan. We would get shot at. Our resupply helicopters were getting shot at coming in. And out. The security bubble was nothing. It didn't exist.
Well, and a little bit of part of that too is you get to the end of your deployment, right? Where you only got a couple weeks left. You're not going to do anything stupid. You're not. You're going to take your guys home. Your time's down there. I'd done the same thing. I'd be like, no, let's hole up here, but they did not. It was clear they just did not want to get in any sort of engagement.
I think by the time we left, we had pushed our security bubble out 20 clicks. We had to go looking for a fight. We had to get in the MRAPs, go to way on the edge of the battalion AO, and then just rock it, But that took a lot of fighting. It took 7 months.
We had so this was an interesting PSYOP that they kind of did. So they had told the locals. So we were the first unit in country with multicam. And so they had told the locals. They had told the locals that in order to get this uniform, these guys had to kill a member of their own family. So they thought we were all a bunch of killers. So nobody in the immediate area wanted to really screw with us a whole lot because they thought we were all savages.
Yeah,
and so we, outside of day, unless you go north of certain grid lines, like I said, and you go find them and screw with them. For the most part, around the COP and everything, it was a pretty safe spot because everybody's kind of scared of us because of that until they figure it out, But
well, I'm gonna take a detour right quick just because you mentioned that. So I've only had a couple of Army guys on here. So,
I saw,
yeah. So, okay. So, question: were the ACUs why
garbage?
What? Who made that call, dude?
Somebody's cousin's brother in Washington got rich off that deal because I don't know who sold them that bill of goods, but it was horrible.
Horrible.
You can't. The only thing those digitals do, I will say, Marine, you guys wear digitals. The only thing that digitals do, from my experience, is they break up night vision really well.
Yeah.
They hide night vision very well, but the ACUs don't blend into anything.
No. The Marine Corps' MARPAT is the only digicam uniform that I like. The Navy's is stupid because it's blue. Yep. The Marine Corps is the only one I like, and to be honest, I'm glad they haven't got rid of it. I still wear mine hunting, so because it's free camo. But how'd you like the multicam? Did you like that uniform a lot better?
It's probably the best uniform that I wore. I mean, and I came from old school BDUs to desert fatigues to ACUs to multicam now.
Yeah,
So I've
the
made
multicam.
that
I do.
wow.
Have you seen the meme though that shows like every army in the world wears multicam, and so it shows World War III, and it has all the countries standing around a circle, and they're all wearing Marpat, but they have like a different flag on their arm. Have you seen that?
I don't think I've seen that one.
No, dude, it's so funny because like every country in the world now uses the same color of multicam. So it's like if we ever get in a World War III, like we're all just gonna be wearing the same uniform pointed at each other.
Ooh,
So
I
I
didn't
thought
think
it was
about that.
pretty yeah, yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. Anyway, so you guys you get out there, you start pushing the security bubble. What's the op tempo look like? I mean, is it pretty engagements are coming pretty regularly, or you know,
Not at first. Like I said,
yeah,
because they were still trying to figure out who we were. We're still trying to
right,
figure out who they are, and so I feel like we're kind of in this weird relationship with the locals. Like they've obviously heard rumors about us. We're new, we look new.
yeah,
Different than the last unit. So we actually went quite a while. Outside of like I said, getting mortared, rocketed, things like that. We actually went quite a while before ever really seeing anything outside of that. We would, we'd hike into like villages like Charwazi in the mountains and Menjuar, places like that, trying to go find the Taliban, like hoping that they would get into an engagement with us. And a lot of times they didn't. But yeah, it was pretty quiet, I will say, like outside of like IDF and things like that. No IEDs, actually, surprisingly,
really,
like right off the bat, nope. But again,
wow,
we're not really in vehicles, not like
yeah,
Iraq, where everything's in vehicle, and we never
yeah,
patrol in good form the same route twice, really, like
right.
you alternate your routes, so we never, we didn't have an IED. I think I was the first IED attack, if I'm correct, where I
Wow.
got injured.
See, that's wild, man. Because down in the Helmand, like it is like you can't patrol anywhere without stepping on an IED. I mean, it was Valence. We had to mine sweep everywhere. It was wild. I mean, just my company alone had two double amputees, not including the other guys that got
Wow.
injured less. Yeah, so I mean, it was yeah, no, it was some
We
shit
just
down
we just
there.
sent the ANA ahead of us.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
kidding. I'm
yeah.
kidding.
We did that though. I mean, like that's no joke, man. Like that's something that like it was, especially towards the end. Not the end of my deployment, but towards the end of combat operations in Afghanistan. I mean, that's pretty much a lot of what it was. Was hey, we're here in case some shit goes real sideways or you need
Yeah.
air support, but you guys go do this because this is your country. Like we're not fighting for us anymore. But okay, so you do get blown up. Now, do you get blown up before things get kinetic, or is it kind of
Right
all happen
before
around the
things
same
really
time?
popped off. So,
Okay, so what happened with you?
so um, I remember I'm coming from the LURS, right? So I got a little bit of recon training behind me and stuff like that. So the fun part of before I got blown up, like the fun part of me was I was actually sitting out on some sniper OPs. We were running small kill team drills or small kill
Oh,
teams,
nice.
going out developing patterns of life. The class I read that booklet to you, that improvised explosive device class. What they taught us in that class was how to build bombs.
Mm.
So I'd get called to talk, commander would be up there and he was like, he'd have a bunch of like oxidized Russian ordnance or Chinese ordnance, like RPG rounds, Big Nine, things like that. And what I would do is I would hotwire. So like from the
Mm.
ignition system to the main charge. So on an RPG, right? So everybody can understand this, right? You have your ignition system, you have your propellant, which blows the grenade, is flying the grenade essentially. Then you have that detonator on the front that detonates the main charge and everything goes boom, right? So all I'm
Hmm.
essentially doing is short wiring this thing, short wiring it from the ignition system to the main blast. So when the Taliban picks it up, tries to throw it in a rocket tube, blows themselves up. So I
Wow.
manufactured a number of these things, and we'd go out at night and I'd dig a hole in the ground, maybe a tail fin sticking out, pour some water over it, make it look like it was old Chinese ordnance that popped up. And then there was an Air Force
Yeah.
tech that would wire them up so that way we could see them on GPS. And so when the Taliban would pick it up and it moved, if it sat longer for like 3 or 4 days, we knew that they probably took it to a weapons cache and we'd go hit the cache and go get all their
Oh,
shit.
sweet.
And if they tried to fire it against us, they'd blow themselves up. So we're doing laundry one day, in a kettle over a fire because we didn't have shit. And, our resupply was nothing down to a bottle of water a day, for personal hygiene. Like I'm buying chickens off the ANA to eat something. And, doing laundry with a wooden broom handle, doing this, and all of a sudden off in the distance just goes, I'm like, we're all like, what the fuck was that? Well, I go look up the computer and I'm like, oh shit, that was mine. Go out there, do a BDA, and go find this big nine that's been shooting at us, all the time in a Toyota. They're in one of those surf trucks, 3 dead bad guys laying on the ground. So that was one that worked. So things are getting fun, right? We're doing infantry things. We're proactive instead of reactive, and we're doing this stuff. And so my squad leader, nice guy, very ineffective at his job. To his credit, he knew it. I'm in ATL at this point. And he goes, Macke, you just need to run things like you got things on lockdown here. I'm not mean to talk myself up like I'm the last American badass, because I'm not.
Yeah.
But I was proficient at my job. And so he was like, you're going to run the squad, like whatever. He went home on leave, so I'm in charge of my squad now. And my lieutenant, some MPs were going to tick. Troops in contact, people that don't know, are going to tick, and they're asking for QRF. So we're going to go roll into this gunfight and back these guys up. And I had one of the only guys there was 2 guys in our platoon that could run the mine rollers, I'm in front of the Cougars. And so I had been talking to my lieutenant for weeks saying, we need to rotate these guys in and out, right? You always don't want your point man up front. We got to give these guys a break, train up some other people, like, so that way when we're in vehicles, like, they don't have to be in the front all the time. And he's arguing with me, and he's like, Macke, he goes, I hear you. I agree with you. And we will do that when we get back. He's like, but right now I need a competent leader that can guide us into this fight, knows how to read a map, and can coordinate our first response. Roger that, sir. Yeah. We'll do it. So prior to the big bang here, there's a couple details I missed. So in between Iraq and Afghanistan, I'd gotten married. And she had 2 kids before we were married. And so that's going on. And I found out that she was pregnant with my second daughter at this time, because I'd had one, and I've got another one on the way. So like biologically mine, and then 2 stepkids, right?
Right.
So that's just a detail I forgot to mention, because when we get into stuff afterwards, it's going to make you're going to be like, where'd this wife come from? But that's where it came from. It was in between deployments. So I'm not sure where we kind of left off there when we had our kind of hiccup, but we're in the motor pool going to back some MPs up that were going to tick north of our position a little bit, arguing with the LT, trying to rotate mine roller drivers, because we had 2 that were always out on point, acting squad leader. And we're just basically having an argument of, he needs somebody competent that can read a map and then kind of direct our initial assault in. So that's where we're at. So we had we'd found IEDs at this point, found like HME and, like the urea. You remember that stuff?
Yeah.
Used to make out of the piss. So we'd found bomb making stuff, homemade stuff like that, for HME and stuff, but never encountered any of it live detonation. So we're rolling out. We got the Blue Force tracker on. We're heading to this MP unit that's in it, and I want to say like 3 clicks outside of our ECP. Boom. First truck. When we're in first truck or lead truck, I've got 5 or 6 dismounts in the back. We're in a Cougar.
Okay, if we're going to describe the vehicle, I want to ask a couple questions just to make sure, because I don't know if you're going to get it. It's a Cougar, which is in relation. You can describe it in a second, but one, does it have a mine roller?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so your lead Vic with a mine roller, for all my Afghan guys, they'll understand that. So just that was probably something they might be wondering. And then secondly, explain the difference between a Cougar and an MRAP, if you know what an MRAP is.
Yeah, so we had MRAPs. We had the MAP-Vs, which were made by International, and they look kind of more like a jacked up 4-wheeler, like
love that truck.
Yeah,
God, I want one.
They're awesome. We also had the kind of the minivan version, right? They had the MRAPs. I don't remember the exact nomenclature. They look like a giant bus, a big armored bus. And then we have the Cougars, which I think were I said, were they still considered? No, I don't think they were considered an MRAP. They were kind of like EOD had them in Iraq, when everybody
Oh,
else was
okay.
rolling Humvees. So I think they were a little bit older.
Okay. And you did, yeah. So they may have been like an older iteration of the V-shaped bottom
Yes.
concept.
Because
Okay.
it did
Okay.
have a V shape, but they're heavy trucks. I don't know
Okay.
what they weighed. Gunter, mine roller. We started putting those RPG cages on them too.
Okay. We
So
never did
most of
that,
our
but
Vicks had the RPG cages on them.
right. Okay.
But and then of course gunner stirrup.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what we're in. Company XO's in the back, and I am element commander. Dude, I've been blown up before. I was telling you, got hit in the head, but I don't remember anything about it because I was knocked out, immediately. This one I was conscious through the entire thing. Not in the gun turret, it was like slow motion. I saw just, I didn't see the mine roller go, but I just remember the dust and dirt, coming up over the hood. I remember the truck hood or the hood of the truck. It seemed like, we're coming up, looking at the sky, and then all of a sudden we get dropped back down. I don't remember being inside the blast, a loud bang, like like a boom, like an explosion boom. I just remember hearing like, man, it was like just a loud bang, and like a bang, like if you were to like hit I don't know, a sludge hammer on a steel door, just,
Okay.
but times 100, just that metal on metal bang crunch. Anyways, stuff goes down, truck goes down, we stop. My first initial thoughts for my gunner. So I do the reach back, grab, pull him down. I can't. Yeah, I'm asking. He's okay. He's like, I'm good, Sergeant. I'm good. I'm like, okay. And I'm trying to get on the radio and call out the IED dead. Not that it was going to be not obvious. The trucks behind us obviously saw it, but let everybody know that everybody was still alive. And my radios were fried. They got juiced in it. My emitter wasn't working. So I yelled back to my company XO and I asked him if his emitter was working, which apparently, it was, I think. But the
question, real quick. So no one in the truck was killed.
Nope.
Okay, cool. Okay. Did y'all not have an SOP for no contact with the truck? Our SOP was we had so if there was 90 strike and the radios wasn't working, because obviously that happened a lot, and so we kind of knew it ahead of the deployment, so we made an SOP. The SOP was it was a red star cluster if somebody was injured and a green star cluster if everybody was good.
Well, that's interesting, and that's
yeah,
that would be a great SOP.
Yeah, it was a banging SOP, but yeah, we used it more, I think, at least once.
We did not. Not to my knowledge, anyways. From what I remember, we didn't have any sort of SOP like that.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
It
sorry.
was, I'm kind of concussed a little bit. I can tell right now. My driver, who later died from gunshot wound in a separate incident, he's from New York, and there's one thing that I know about New York, and that's that I absolutely hate East Coast accents. Like, it's not my cup of tea, just that, I don't know. But so him and I, I'm his team leader, and we had been at odds, about stupid shit, the way soldiers and leaders are, me reminding him to keep his shit clean, and change his socks, stupid shit, prior to this. And he looks over at me, and his jaw was wide open and his mouth was open. He's just going to stare at me, and it just pissed me off. I don't know why he didn't do anything. It wasn't his fault, I don't blame him for driving over it. But I just looked at him and I was like, what the fuck did you expect was going to happen? I had experience getting blown up in this, his first deployment. So shock's completely justified. I was just like, you fucking moron. Like, what did you think was going to happen? It was eventually going to happen. And I said, you okay, Tom? And he goes, yeah, I think I'm fine, And then I hear my XO starting to yell out. So you're kind of deaf in all this, right, too?
Yeah.
So I could hear just a bang, 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 bang. And I thought we were getting shot at.
Mm.
I thought it was an ambush right after the IED dip. And
Right.
so I yell up to my gunner, his name is Mike Gintosi. And I was like, Gintosi, I said, you put me 800 rounds from our 12 to 3 o'clock. I said, I want you to dump that 240. Like, because to me, that's where the fire was coming from, where I heard the knocking, like I thought we were getting hit with bullets. And I couldn't talk to anybody, any of the trucks behind me because the radios were dead. So I'm trying to work an ambush now. And what I found out later was we weren't getting shot at. It was the fan and the motor that was hitting a piece of metal that got busted up in there and was just bang, 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 bang. It sounded just like machine gun fire while I'm half deaf,
Yeah.
So he does, and then I hear our company XO. He's in the back as a dismount, and he's yelling out to our dismounts, and I can't tell you who all was back there today, but I hear him start giving directions like, "You're going to get out of the back. You're going to get out of the back. You're going to start. You're going to take the right side, left side. Security, 360 security." I think we're in a firefight, post IED blast. He is telling soft targets to get out of the back of a vehicle where our armor's still intact.
Right.
I have an operational gunner, and we have support trucks behind us. This does not make sense to me to throw boots out there, right? Like, we're not going to maneuver on foot away from a blast site with a disabled truck. So that seemed really dumb to me. So I politely kind of yelled back to him, and I was like, "Fuck you, sir. I'm still in command of this vehicle. You're just a dismount. Shut the fuck up. We're behind our armor. Everything's good." So to his credit, he listened. He told everybody to stand down. And that was when, Tom from New York had to look over at me, and he goes, "Hey, sorry." He goes, "You all right?" And I was like, fuck. Now that you say that, I was like, I can't feel my legs.
Oh, shit.
And I said, "I'll tell you what, Tom," I said, "I'm going to try to lift them up." I said, "You tell me if they're still there because I don't want to look." And he goes, "Okay." And I tried to lift him up, and he's like, "I think you're good." And that's when just the pain hit me. Ooh. So, just got off of pain. The door of my vehicle was jammed shut. It had concave with the blast. The bomb went off right underneath my seat. In terms of like where it went off underneath the vehicle. So they had wired it back. I've heard other guests, and I'm sure guys know, what they learned to us is our mine rollers were essentially ineffective at this point because they would just put the pressure plate, 20 yards ahead of the blast. So that way when your mine roller hit it, it was directly underneath the truck. In this case, so it went off right underneath me. And my platoon leader was the first one to come up to the door after we'd done like a secondary. We had 5 and 25s is what we called them, right? Like 5 meter sweeps, 25 meter sweeps, and then we deemed it okay for people to approach.
Yeah.
And so he was banging on. He was trying to open my door with the pickaxe from the IMT kits.
Okay.
I'm trying to pry it open and they were able to get it open. And so now I believe we started taking a little bit of fire. So now we were taking actual rounds. So they dropped me in the blast hole underneath the truck, that's disabled. And it was a big ass blast hole too. Would have been a nice foxhole. And they start going through the process of like, when you're a casualty, I'm sure you guys have the same process. You start stripping sensitive items, like nods, maps, things that you don't want the enemy to have. And I'm a casualty at this point because I'm just screaming in pain. And he goes to, so let me back it up. Sorry. I back inside the truck, haven't been outside the truck yet. I'm thinking we're in a firefight. I try to get my M4 up. So I picked my M4 up, and the blast had caused my barrel to bend to the left. And then my flash suppressor looked like, Elmer Fudd plugs Bugs Bunny, or, Bugs Bunny plugged Elmer Fudd's gun, and it blew the flash suppressor back.
Holy shit.
So my M4 was fucked. And so I went to draw my sidearm, which was on a drop leg on my right side. And when I did that, the door that had concaved pushed pistol into my leg. So when I drew my 9mm out, I ripped part of my muscle group out of my leg because it was embedded in my leg. So they're trying
now,
to
you couldn't feel that though, could you? When you pulled the pistol out?
No, I didn't.
Oh, that's why you hurt yourself so bad because you couldn't feel it as you were trying to jerk it out of the holster. I'm assuming.
Yeah, no, it was just pinned up against the door. I didn't
Yeah.
know. I mean, and again, you get a lot of adrenaline going. I knew I was
Oh
hurt,
yeah.
but I didn't know
Right.
how
Right.
bad.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
so
But
yeah,
you're
I'm
not.
trying to rip this thing out, and when I ripped it off,
Oh.
there's a big piece of muscle on the front sight post that had came with it.
Oh. God damn.
It was functional. I'll give it that.
Oh, shit.
But so yeah, they get me out, lay me down in the blast crater. They're trying to strip sensitive items off me. The only weapon I have, because I knew my M4 was fucked, was my pistol.
Right.
And they're trying to strip that away from me. And so my platoon sergeant actually wasn't. So I grabbed him by his chin strap and I said, "You will not leave me here without a fucking weapon." And he gave it up. He knew I wasn't giving it up. He was like, "All right, dude, you're good. You're still fighting." Like,
yeah.
whatever. So they take care of whatever. I'm not really in the fight or anything like that. Like, and it wasn't very long, whatever it was. We might have taken a couple pop shots, afterwards or whatever. I don't know. Now I'm in a lot of pain. And what hurts my legs, right? I'd say from my left leg, from my knee down, from my whole leg. My right leg was my foot. And that's all I know. But it was a lot of damn pain. Medic gets up there, gives you the military standard shot of ibuprofen. When I asked her, I was like, "What is that ibuprofen?" I got pissed and I was like, give me the good stuff. Like, yep. First was the ibuprofen coming on board. And I was like, "No, you better give me something else or I'm going to freak out,
Yeah.
So she did give me a little bit. We were close enough. Like I said, we were only about 3 clicks out. So I was close enough to get Casevac'd back into the base. So they're not calling they're going to land the bird, the medevac bird at the base instead of at our cop, instead of coming out to the scene.
Safe for LZ.
So they're going to Casevac me to FOB, and then medevac me out from there. So a good buddy of mine, he's E4. His name's Nathan Easton, and he's a goofball of a guy, good troop, just an but one of those just like silly guys, that you're just like, "Nate, like you shouldn't get in you should be in E6 by now, but you're in E4 because you can't stop screwing off, but you're new as shit, and had that
I know
personality."
A couple of
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the guy, right? Like,
yeah, oh yeah.
So they go to load me in the back of his vehicle, and he's on the gun, and he's going, and I know him extremely well, and he looks down at me, and he goes, "Macke?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude." And he knows I'm in pain. He goes, "What the fuck happened?" And I'm like, "Nate, not right now, dude. Not now, And he goes, "Would you stop being such a fucking pussy?" And I'm like, I explode. I'm like, "Nate, if I wasn't restrained to that cot, like I would have got up and murdered him." Right? I was like, "You motherfucker, wait till I get out of this thing. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to choke you, son of a bitch." Like, and he's just like, "God, stop being a pussy." And he's up on, get back to base. Medevac, bird shows up. This is about where my memory starts to get real fuzzy. So I remember getting a little bit more medication, waiting for the bird on the cot. I remember getting on the bird, and the flight medic going, "Are you in any pain?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, you won't be in a minute." And then that was it.
He gave you fentanyl then. He put your ass out.
But he gave me whatever was good.
Whatever they give people in hospitals, I think.
So on your previous episode, the Army guy, when he was talking about they had medevac birds in the middle of a really heavy firefight. I really want to know where at now. It's cute. It's really sparked something in me. Like, I want to find out if this has actually happened, because I wonder if our paths didn't accidentally cross. So
the recon guy,
same exact time. What's that?
The recon guy?
No. Your Army guy, your first Army guy that came on.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He's talking about the medevac bird coming in because they took a casualty, and it's just an intense firefight, and they're shooting down on him. So I woke up during this medevac ride, and the medic's like, "We got to stop and pick up one more guy. It's going to be fast though." And I'm like, "Okay." And we landed somewhere to the north of us, which I think they were in Lugar. We were in Paktia to the south. So this makes a lot of sense if it was the same event.
Yeah. Okay. He was in the lum. Shit. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Anyways, we land super hot and in a hell of a firefight. I mean, these boys were they were fighting.
Yeah.
And it was like something you see out of a Vietnam movie where, four guys are just running the cot up this dude,
Hmm.
throwing him on, and they're running back to go get the right. I mean, because the incoming rounds just fucking all the
Yeah.
time. And we take off, super hot and fast and get in and get out right there. But I remember that was whatever base that was. If that was, I wonder if this isn't the same, you know, like I didn't accidentally show up there on a medevac bird,
Yeah.
hurt myself. But it's just when I was listening to that, I was like, no shit, I took a medevac bird, and I remember us landing in a firefight, like
You
to get a
know,
casualty.
the crazy thing is, people say, oh, probably not, but you know how many medivacs there were. But dude, the military is a small motherfucking world sometimes.
Yeah, I just
And
and it was really extremely rare to get a medevac bird to land in the middle of a fight.
so okay, I just had to. I wasn't going to be able to wait on it. Okay, so I just looked up the episode on my phone. So it was to the Logar province. Where was that in
Logar, sorry, I
reference?
said Luger. Yeah,
Logar. Yeah, I know you
Logar.
said an L word, but I don't think my hearing aids are turned up. And it was Cop Shark. And I don't know. I'd have to see a map. The problem is the issue here is like the Marines had our own names, and even different battalions had different names. We would rename positions. So the problem is like unless it's like the same year, same time, and dudes hear the same names, it's hard to say, man. Like, but if
I know. I'll probably
I
never
can,
know, but we were there the same time. They came there the same time. The
yeah,
time from I'm just like, how many times has that happened? Like,
I can,
I doesn't
I can
matter.
put you
I
in
was just
contact
I
with
was
them.
listening to that, and I'm like, no
Yeah.
shit. Wow, like that's a coincidence. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's just like the same coincidence as the recon marine. Me and him probably went to SOI together, and it's like we had no idea we'd never met each other. I met him on Facebook to do
oh
this
really?
podcast.
No kidding. Yeah,
Yeah, so
that's
like
awesome.
it's crazy coincidences. So
Yeah,
um, yeah. Okay, so you leave so you get medevac. Do you go back to? Do you know where you go after that? I mean, do you go to
yeah.
Bagram?
No, I had so we couldn't make it to. I wasn't stable enough to make it to
Mm,
Bagram.
okay.
So and I'll tell you what the injuries were here in a second. But we landed in Salerno. So
Okay.
we were just at a small field hospital in Salerno,
Yeah.
and I was at Salerno for I don't know, probably a week or better, because of red air, because the airstrip kept getting rocketed.
Okay.
So they kept ground flights,
Yeah.
and I had what come to find out, like my right foot was crushed, every bone in it
Mm.
was crushed. My left leg was broke. My right leg, what is it? The humerus? Is that your big one?
Femur?
Okay, yeah, I'm not good with
Yeah,
anatomy.
something.
But anyways,
Okay.
yeah, anyways, the big bone in your leg, right? Because we're infantry,
Yeah.
dumb, we don't know. But anyways, that was broke because the pistol had went in and got
Oh,
that one, and then my back was broke in two spots, because so it was basically every vertical bone in a sitting position was broke,
yeah.
just because of the weight of your plate carrier and all that, kind of coming down as the blast coming up, so it
Wow.
crushed two of my vertebrae.
Man.
And then I had TBI and all the
Oh,
things,
yeah.
concussion shit like that. So the and they didn't know my left leg was broken until they went to stand me up to take me to the bathroom, and I fell over. To their credit, like I wasn't complaining about my left leg because my right foot was just crushed. So like that's what hurt the most, and all I was
Yeah.
complaining about. Didn't even know my back was broke at this point because my legs just hurt so damn bad. And
Mm.
so they're like, "Oh shit, we probably better do some X-rays." So they did X-rays. They found that out. So um, was
When did you
there?
call your wife?
So I actually didn't call my wife,
Oh, shit.
because I wasn't coherent enough with the meds they'd onboarded me with, to do that.
That
So
makes sense. Yeah.
another one of my buddies that was another team leader in our platoon, I asked to make the phone call, and so he did.
Okay.
I said, just don't tell her anything. I'm like, just tell her I'm alive and I'm fine.
Mm.
I'm hurt, but I'm fine. Um, so after he said Salerno, I flew out via Blackhawk to Bagram.
Mm.
And I wasn't in Bagram very long. They didn't do a whole lot for me there. I got General Campbell with the 101st, I believe. Gave me a Purple Heart and got my picture in Stars and Stripes and that crap, because it was my second one.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't remember a whole lot. I don't think I was there 48 hours. And then they shipped me to Landstuhl, Germany.
Yeah.
The Undersecretary of Defense came to meet me in Landstuhl, which I couldn't tell you his name today, or what we talked about.
Yeah.
And then from there, I went to Walter Reed.
Yeah.
And then they flew me back actually across the pond on a KC-130 refueler, which I thought was kind of weird.
Oh.
But yeah, it was all right.
I've heard it. I've actually heard that is not uncommon. So
yeah, I didn't know they did that. I figured it'd be a C-17 or something bigger, because those C-130s kind of, or sorry, not C-130, the C-17. God damn it. The KC-130s are kind of have a narrow, like a real small fuselage, So I remember them stacking 2 beds high with casualties.
Yeah.
And it was just the nurse that could walk in between us all, And if you went like that, you could probably touch both sides of the airplane,
Wow.
But yeah, so get to Walter Reed, go to, I think so after they kind of said there's nothing special we can do at Walter Reed for you, they let me pick the hospital I wanted to go to.
What year was this?
This should have been in 2010, right?
When you get injured is 2010, 12.
2010, 11, something. I'd have to go look at the thing.
Okay. Well, the only reason is 2012. I thought it was. I might be wrong. I might be looking at your junk wrong.
No. Sorry. 12 is when I ETS, but I think we're getting confused is like when you said what were your service dates, it was OIF 10-12 or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. The only reason I asked because I think you're the podcast guest that is friends with my good buddy Joshua Suss, but he's in Wounded Warrior, so I was like maybe you guys knew each other through there. But anyway, yeah. If you don't, that's cool.
I've forgotten more names than that.
Yeah,
I mean, I was in Wounded Warrior too. So
that's what I'm saying. Like, I just thought y'all might have crossed paths, but yeah, maybe not. Well, it's not around the same time frame because I think he got blown up in late 11, right before Christmas. So y'all wouldn't have crossed paths, I don't think.
No, see, mine was in May, I think.
Okay,
maybe May 10 or 11. I don't know. I have to go look at the.
You might have met him on Facebook or on a trip, and yeah, okay. I was just wondering.
I'll check it out.
Yeah. All right. So when you get to Walter Reed, how long do you stay there for? And by this time, like, I'm assuming you're wheelchair bound. I mean, obviously having a broken back, I assume.
So Army still doesn't know about my back. They still think it's just lower extremities. So I'm not wheelchair bound. I was immobile. Like they didn't put me in a wheelchair because my right foot was they needed it, and it did so all the bones in it were essentially crushed, but the swelling had gotten so big, and then the shock damage from the blast, my legs all the way up to like my hips were just like this jaundice yellow, black and blue, just from the bruising from the shock.
Yeah.
So I couldn't do anything but lay down.
Holy shit.
My dad has pictures of it because he asked me if he could take pictures of it when I got stateside when they came to visit. And it's pretty nasty looking. Like now I look back on it. But and I didn't. So I don't know how long I was at Walter Reed, honestly, because as soon as I got to the States, like I just was juiced all the time. They had me on Percocet, Toradol. I'd get one shot in the neck, a bunch of stuff. Like I have a very thin memory up till about Fort Leonard Wood, which is where I ultimately landed. But I couldn't tell you. I traveled two, three different spots before ever landing at Leonard Wood, but I cannot tell you how long or maybe even exactly where the other two were. Wow. So the Army at some point let me choose where I wanted to go to a hospital at. And so I chose Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, just because it was within a 6-hour drive from home. So that way everybody could come visit.
Yeah.
Which was great, but I was such an infection. This is what sucks about military hospitals is like, so I was an infection risk. So I had to be put in this, this HVAC controlled room, and of course, imagine it like barracks, but with a hospital bed, right? Like everything's a cinder block wall. There's nothing on the walls,
Mm.
and you get your one little 12-inch TV that swings over the bed, and that's it. You're just isolated. So, um, yeah, I'm there. I had so they assign you a patient rights advocate to like kind of tell you what your options are,
Mm.
and she was great. That lady saved my leg. So the army docs were ready to amputate me on my right side. And I was extremely upset about that because I got thinking, I was like, man, now that you like say you're going to take it, I kind of use that thing for a lot of shit,
Mhm.
It freaked me out. So she came and talked to me and she was like, like you have the right to the best medical care that you want and the army has to pay for it. So if you do not want to do this, don't do it. And
Right.
I'm like, okay, well, we're going to get a second opinion then. So the Army ended up ultimately, they flew in this guy named Dr. Spitnali and Dr. Brown. And one of them, I don't remember which, I think it was Spitnali, was the orthopedic surgeon at the time for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Wow.
And he came in and they made him an office like right down the hall from where my room was at. And he was like, okay, well, we can try to save this. But I can't guarantee it's going to work because we haven't done surgery like this before.
Right.
So he was working with some pharmaceutical tech company. They manufactured an artificial cuboid bone plate, all brand new shit. I signed a consent, K wires, the whole bunch of things for the surgery. I had to sign a consent waiver so they could film it. So that way, if the procedure worked, they could use it for other vets and,
Right.
publish it in journals and things. And, so I signed that. Obviously, I didn't care. Like I figured, what the hell? If it works, it works. If it doesn't, the ultimatum's amputation. So might
Right.
as well go
Yeah.
for it. So I did 3 surgeries on that leg.
Mm.
My right leg was pretty fine. They just casted it and broken leg healed right up.
Yeah.
It was good. And same thing with the bone in my high right leg. Still don't know about my back. Yeah, still. So we're probably at like 2 months post blast. Still don't know about my back. My back's
Ah.
2 of my vertebrae crushed because I ain't moving. I'm laying into bed, still juiced up on pain pills, so nothing's really hurting. So then the third surgery, they were putting an external fixator on, which is the rods that stick out of your leg,
Mhm.
connected, and then they hook them together with bolts and everything to pull certain things back to the right position. But it's all exterior of your leg, it's just a base. And I had been so doped up at this point. I asked the doctor, I said, is there any way that you could just do like a block or give me an epidural like I'd seen my wife have, during childbirth? I
Mhm.
was like, is there any way that you could just deaden me from the waist down, stop
Mhm.
giving me local narcotics, and just give me a day of like clarity in my head? And he explains, he's like, well, yeah, we could do this popliteal block is what it's called behind your knee. We can deaden you from the knee down and you wouldn't need a local for a couple hours afterwards. And I'm like, perfect. That'd be great. The issue with that is they missed the block. So the anesthesiologist missed the block of my leg. So they knocked me out with gas, missed the block, and did the surgery. And when I woke up, I could feel everything. I felt everything.
Mm.
And what that spun me into is I thought that I was still in Afghanistan because the room is dark. It's cinder block walls, right? I'm in a bed. There's a person in the room I don't know. I'm still half
Mm.
gassed up, and I came up swinging,
Oh
uh,
shit.
and screaming. And this nurse tried to come over, uh, tried to calm me down. I grabbed her by the throat, was threatening to kill her, was screaming at her to give me my rifle back. The next thing I know, there's a whole team of people come in and they just fucking juice me right up. Like, I'm out again.
Mm.
I get told about it, the next day, which
Yeah.
I bought the nurse's station all flowers because I felt like an asshole. But I
Oh
mean, it was
yeah.
like complete like PT. I thought I was captured. Dude, I was ready to murder in it. Like I was really truly trying to kill her. Uh,
Wow.
and so I get well enough. So they eventually find out about my back. But because it had been probably 2.5 months at this point, the bones had started to fuse together.
Right.
And so they kind of got fucked because they couldn't, like with a lot of bones, like if something fuses wrong or whatever, they can kind of re-break the bone, if it's your arm or something, straighten
Right.
it out, put it back together, recast it and do that. But they can't do that with your back. Nobody's going to re-break your back. So I kind of
Mm.
got screwed with my back because there's nothing they can do for it now because it had already healed too much on its own in the incorrect way for that they just can't do anything for it. So I'm not paralyzed or anything, but I mean, it's just constant pain,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
And so I get healed up enough to kick me out to what's called, I'm not bad enough to be in the hospital, but I can't be on my own.
Yeah. Okay. I gotta interject a question here.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and it's funny because I thought of the question before you told your story about when you had that flashback kind of situation. But so you were, like you said, you're post a couple months from the issue, but now maybe towards when they move you, now you're starting to have more clarity. You're not juiced up all the time, like you're saying. Does it ever start to occur to you, like, how's your mental state at this point? Because here's the problem with this scenario, and every wounded guy experiences this, and I'm sure y'all talk about it. But for the people that haven't put two and two together, you can literally get blown up, and then within a week, I mean, I'm assuming in some of the fastest cases, you can be back in the United States, and you're so juiced up during then, it's almost like that whole time that's expired since you got back in the United States is when you left the combat zone. It's almost like a dream. That's the way it's been described to me before, because you're like you said, you're under narcotics so often. So like, are you even thinking about anything at this point, or is it just you don't,
I'm aware. I mean, yes. I mean, I'm not. I mean, I completely missed a huge, like you said, my memory of
yeah,
from blast to making it back to Fort Leonard Wood. The details I told you are about the most extent that I can go into it, because I
yeah,
in and out, in and out, in and out.
right.
Like I was in Fort Leonard Wood Hospital. Do you remember the country singer Daryl Worley?
Yeah, yeah.
He, like in the early 90s, he was big. Anyways, he was there with the USO, and he came to my hospital room and, like, I guess it hung out with me for like an hour. We got a picture together and everything. I don't remember nothing.
No recollection of it.
I mean, I was like,
wow.
My mom was there visiting at the time, and
Yeah.
she was like, oh, when she was talking to me about it, I was like, what are you talking about? Like, you're crazy. Like, and she goes, no, you guys he signed an autograph for your guys' picture together and everything. She showed it to me, and I was like, yeah, I had no clue. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, yeah, because it's got to be like this whole time's like a dream, just in and out of consciousness,
Just, yeah, in terms of like a mental standpoint, like, I can tell you when I came back from Iraq and we demobbed and did all that, I was out of my mind. Like, I was crazy. My friends all thought I was crazy. Like, you're still amped up. There's no come down. Like, your body doesn't. Your mind knows you're home, but your body and your instincts and everything don't know you're home. So that was kind of the same thing that was happening to me, but I could not do the crazy shit that I did after Iraq, and I was hospital bound. So I'm just going insane and like just I want to go that tempo, and I'm still there, but I can't move, so it's driving me nuts, watching the same Adult Swim shows 3 a.m, in a hospital bed, staring at nothing on the walls. It ain't like a civilian hospital. They don't roll an Xbox in there. They don't send somebody in to entertain you or talk to you. You're just in there by yourself. What you get's what you get. It's drink water and take your meds. And that's it. See you later in another 2 hours till we come check on you. But yeah, so I'm experiencing the same body and response and kind of emotions, but I got no outlet for anything. So so now I'm at a point where I don't have to be in the hospital, but I can't be on my own. So the Army can't, send me anywhere. So they send me to a wounded warrior battalion. I think that's what they're called at the time.
Yeah.
And it's just a bunch of guys who got hurt over there, right? Everybody's got their own shit, and you get put in a 2-man barracks, or a 2-man room in the barracks with somebody, you may or may not know. And then you have 2 requirements. You have to go to all your medical appointments if you have any for that day, and you have to show up for formations. So I was in a wheelchair at this point. So I couldn't like wheel, like the barracks. And I think you'd agree, like if you look at like Fort Polk or anywhere like that, I've never seen like wheelchair accessible barracks, like these things, or anything like that. Like, I'm like, dude, I can't get out of here without help. And so my assigned squad leader at the time was like, don't even worry about formation. So he'd just stick his head in the room in the morning and be like, you alive? I'm like, yep. All right, sweet. See you later. See you at 4:00. And then you're just bored for the rest of the day. You got nothing to do. You just sit in a wheelchair, staring at a wall. Like, yeah. They did. Once I got a little my appointments slowed down, they had buses that would bus you or come pick you up after the morning formation, and they would take you to places on post that, so if you wanted to go to the movie theater on post, it would drop you off there, PX or whatever. But Fort Leonard Wood's down by the Ozarks, and I'm a big outdoors guy, and it's got some of the best fishing around. And so I was like, well, if I can sit my ass in a wheelchair, I can sit my ass in a kayak. So I'd go to this outdoor store. I'd make them rent me the kayak, go to the bait store next. I'd have somebody walk in, grab me a 12-pack of summer shandy and some bait, come back out. I'd look at a base map and I'd be like, drive me here. They'd drive me out there, wheel me down to the river. And then they'd be like, do you need anything else? And I'm like, nope, pick me up at 3:00. And I'd sit there all day and I just drank beer and fished.
Wow.
In my wheelchair. I did that for weeks, every day. So that was good. But so my time at Fort Leonard Wood, I'm on crutches now, because I can use my left leg, but my right leg's still fucked up. Back's still jacked up, but I'm on crutches. And so now that I'm not in a wheelchair and I don't need to be kind of caddied around after this time, they send me to what's called a WTU, which is called a Warrior Transition Unit. And that's the Army can't use you, so they're going to send you to these people that are going to monitor you remotely. And then I basically got put on convalescent leave orders 30 days at a time. So I go out to Utah. If I'm out to Utah, I sit in Utah for 2 weeks. I sign these papers, get assigned a chain of command, and then they fly me home. And then I'm at home for 30 days, and then I got to go back. And then they check on me, see my face, and then they send me back home for another 30 days. And at this point, I'm getting late in my contract, right? I got like a month till I ETS. This is where I made a huge mistake with this, because I'm so tired. This has been over a year that I've been in recovery, of just doing absolutely nothing, bored out of my mind, missing my kids, and not being able to be home all the time. My wife and kids came down and visited, but, as much as they could, but she still had a job, still had a house, still had things. So, I'm getting kind of mad that I'm just kind of stuck. So this is before I ever knew anybody that ever med boarded or did anything like that, and the benefits that gets you.
Yeah.
So basically, when my time popped up, I still was on crutches, and I was just like, F you guys, I'm out. See ya. I'm ETS, gone. Bye. And I ETS. Yeah. So screw my, I had 9 years in at that time. So, I'd have had a retirement, if I'd have med boarded, stuff like that. I would have gotten, I could have gotten other benefits. TRICARE was a huge one I would have gotten.
Yeah.
So completely missed out on all of that. And that ended my military career. I take that back. I got sent home from a WTU on a 30-day convalescent leave, and my ETS date, they were going to send me back to my unit, who was already stateside. And I had like a week left, and my platoon sergeant called me and goes, "Hey, are you coming back?" And I was like, "What do you think?" "I'm not coming back for a week."
Hell no.
He goes, "Okay, I'll just tell the commander you're doing another project with me or something, and that's what he did. And I got my dishonorable discharge in the mail. Ironically, so mortuary, when you get medevacs in theater too, your stuff gets packed up by mortuary affairs.
You're right.
So all of my stuff, I'm sitting at home one day, all of my CIF gear, everything, helmet, plate carrier, everything but my weapons and ammunition and sensitive items, of course. This FedEx truck shows up at my house and drops off these tough boxes of all this super clean, intricately wrapped, my dog tags are all stacked and these vacuum seal, I died. And with a CIF packing list, I'm out of the Army.
Right.
I don't have a bill or anything like that. So I kept all my shit.
Yeah.
It was wild.
That's wild. That's wild. You're not the first person I've heard to get your stuff, and then the army or the military is just like, whatever. Nah, we don't want it back.
Yeah, just because I was friends with him, his name's Matt Smith, who's my platoon sergeant. I called him and I was like, "Hey, this because I hate the big green weenie coming back to bite you, going all of a sudden you owe us $8,000, and
Yeah,
so I did not
exactly.
want that to happen. So I called him and I'm like, "Hey, I just got sent all this stuff and it's all CIF stuff. Like, I'm like, do you want this back or what do I
Yeah.
do with it?" And he goes, "Hold on, let me check." So he went in. He's like, "No, they wrote it all off as a combat loss. Just keep it." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, see that's what it gets wrote off as a combat loss. Like I have I have my flak jacket wrote off as a combat loss. But
Nice.
like the thing is like so I had the original one from Afghanistan and then but I don't have the SAPI plates, but the salt armor is still in there. So it's still really good. I put a
Yeah.
set of civilian SAPIs in there. But like the other thing is they make weird mistakes. So when I went down to the wing, that base was so close to my base. They just told me keep your gear because it's in the same district, so to speak, in California. So they were like, whatever. So anyway, I wanted my original Kevlar from Afghanistan. Well, one of the dudes from the wing went to SIF and he went to go check out of the Marine Corps, and they were like, "Oh, you've already turned in all your stuff." And he was like, "Oh," and he just walks back to his car and like, cause he didn't have his stuff in his hand. So they
Yeah.
were just like, "Yeah, you've already turned in everything." And he was like, "Okay, bye." And he was like, "Can I get a receipt?" And they were like, "Yeah." So they gave him the receipt, documented that he didn't have anything. So anyway, when I went to go turn in my Kevlar, I was like, "I really want to keep this." He heard me talking about it. He was like, "I'll sell you my Kevlar for $50." I was like, "Deal." I'm going to the ATM.
Nice.
So I gave him $50 and I turned in his, and then I kept mine. But yeah, it's weird like that. So what'd you do with it? I'm assuming you still got
Oh,
it, but
well, I mean, I can't,
yeah,
a bunch of the stuff, like, I mean, you use like the t-shirts I use, for I
yeah,
cut the sleeves off and mow the yard in, like I mean, they're long since gone, it's been
yeah,
15
yeah,
years,
yeah,
but I mean, my multicams,
yeah,
I still have some of the stuff, I still hunt in some of it or,
yeah. I do too. I hunt with
yeah,
mine.
I do some hunting in it.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I think like the stuff you're not going to use and all the dumb shit, like the dick flap on your,
Yeah,
the stuff you never use, the throat catch, the all the stuff we had because we did is just a base plate carrier, like, and then
yeah,
all that stuff was brand new essentially. I think I took
yeah.
that to an army surplus store and just sold it for like pennies on the dollar because I just wanted to get rid of it.
God, they were
Um,
probably like, hell yeah.
yeah, that's what I did with the stuff that I didn't want, and then that's still, but like you. The only piece of gear that was like truly important to me that I didn't care if CIF was going to charge me for was I wanted to keep my helmet because it's the same
Yeah,
helmet that I went to Iraq in. It was the same helmet that I took to Afghanistan. So I fought 2 wars under this thing. Like, it was sentimental to me. And I've been through
hell
like 2
yeah.
blasts. Like, it kept me alive. Like that I had a personal attachment to it. So
Agreed.
yeah,
Yeah, that's funny, man. Like, yeah, it's funny how you get attached to a piece of gear. Like, into like my Kevlar from when I would like throw it down on the ground all the time. The cover on it at the top was like, it has some holes in it. It looks worn. It looks like it
yeah.
came back from war. And so I'm just like, I'm never getting rid of this bitch.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So,
if you remember from my first deployment, I had shrapnel come in through the front of my helmet.
yeah. Oh,
So,
yes, right.
so it was all like spidered out because it's fibrous, It was all spidered out in front. So actually, they were going to take it away from me before we shipped to Afghanistan because they were like, this thing's not like,
Right.
this thing's shit. Like,
Yeah.
we need to replace it because it's broke. And
Hmm.
so I had to do a real fast maneuver, kind of like what you did with your buddy. I was like, well, hold on just a second here. And so I went to another guy that had already been through the CIF issue for like when
Yeah.
you're getting multicam stuff. And I said, dude, give me your helmet cover with the multicam helmet cover. And he's like, why? And I'm like, I will go get you one. Like, I haven't been through the line yet. Just I'll give you mine when I get it, but give it here. So I took the ACU one off that we went to Iraq in, threw the multicam cover in, got back in line, got to a different person. And they were like, what do you need at CIF? Or do you already have an ACH? And I was like, yeah, I do. It's right here. And then the cover covered everything. And they're like, okay, well, we don't need that. And I'm like, but I could use an extra, helmet cover or whatever, because this one, like, okay. And they just throw that at you,
Right.
So I grabbed, but I needed that cover to cover it so they knew it wasn't from a previous CIF issue. So I did have to do some MacGyvering with
That's
that
awesome.
to keep it. But yeah.
Yeah. There's always some MacGyvering in the system. So God, okay, so you go, and then you said you had about a week or a month of terminal, and you do that. So you go back home. What are you doing afterwards? I'm assuming. Well, shoot, because I'm gonna ask this question. I'm not gonna assume. So nowadays, people are so in touch with the whole VA disability thing and shit like that now, especially if you're wounded and stuff like that, there's so many like reps to be like, okay, well, you need to go ahead and file this. So when you stop making pay from the Marine Corps, your whatever your disability or wound combat, whatever will kick in. So I guess my question is, were you just totally unprepared for like when the government pay ended? Because you didn't get med boarded, so you're not medically retired.
I had no knowledge of what the VA would do.
Right.
So like typically like during a demobilization process, they would have those reps and those liaisons come in and talk to you about,
right.
This is what you can do. You can file for this. Do you have your LODs, your in line of duty paperwork if you were injured or anything. And then they have a whole team that sets you up with that and like, okay, we'll assist you with that claim. And then you can go get a VSO, to help with that.
Right.
I didn't even know. Like, I thought the VA was for like old broken dudes that didn't have health insurance. I really truly did. Like old broken vets that just like couldn't afford
we all did.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I remember. Like, old boys talking about like the VA. They had to go in there for their, I don't know.
Yeah, but like our generation. Like we didn't know. Like nowadays, these kids join the military knowing what they can get from the VA. Like we had no fucking clue.
I went. So no, I did not file a VA claim. Didn't know anything about it until 10 years after.
Holy shit.
I only recently got my VA rating 5 years ago.
Wow.
Because you get talking to buddies and they're like, well, you got to be 100%. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no. Like, what the fuck are you get? What? And they're like, dude, you were hurt tenfold compared to X, Y, and Z. And like, you need to get in there now. And they did. I got a hold of a VSO then through the American Legion, and he was like, dude, we're expediting this.
Slam dunk.
Probably one of the fastest VA claim times. Like, I think I got it in 2 months, and most guys said they had to wait like a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, but they were like, no. Here's the rubber stamp of approval.
Sign this bitch off.
P&T, you got it right here.
Yeah. Well, that's good though, because I have heard of vets who have had like an amputated limb and still struggle with like maybe not that portion of the VA claim, but the associated, because by the time mine was like dude, I didn't file for any mental junk till like 2020, but because of my record at that time, I think they had learned their lesson because your combat job, you have a combat action ribbon, they know you served in a combat zone. It makes things easier to, it makes it easier on the system.
Yeah. And I think too, just speaking specifically too, is like the first comp. And so the first comp and pen, because you request comp and pen appointments.
Mm-hmm.
The guys that did it earlier said that you actually had to go to the VA and do it with a VA doc. I did not. And I think maybe that because that's like Trump's first term, he changed that to where maybe you could go to your own physician. But they set me up with a civilian doctor that was not at a VA who evaluated me for it. Was a trained evaluator.
That's how the VA does that, because since the VA rates the claim, they hire a independent contractor to do the exams so that there's no, what's it called?
Conflict of interest.
Yeah, conflict of interest.
Oh, gotcha.
That's
okay, well, that's what I had then. Yeah, but she felt like I felt like she definitely listened to what I said more than anybody I've ever spoke to at the VA. Like, she didn't just like, yeah. It was like, wait, what happened? Like, oh my God, let me take a look at this. Like, get an X-ray.
Yeah.
So yeah, that part was great.
Okay, but during this time too, now, so when you stop getting paid by the military, now you're back on your own. What do you do at that time? Because are you still kind of injured, or are you kind of almost decent at this point?
I'm pretty decent at this point. I mean, I probably should have done. So I had zero physical therapy too, but I probably should have went through some physical therapy.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I probably should have went some, but I mean, a little bit of that was me being headstrong, and then too partly not knowing about med board and like that they had a right to it, and I was just sick and tired of the military at that time. I knew that this injury was like, I was not going to be a guy that reclassed out of infantry, and I knew that I couldn't return. So I was like, I'm getting out. Like, I don't want to be a pope,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could never go to a wing, or like, kudos to you guys. Like, I just had that beat in my head. Like, it's all I ever wanted to do, and I'm like, I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
doing it. So now, yeah, I'm home. I'm more or less good. So now I get hired at a nuclear energy facility, not too far away from where I live, about 30 miles. And I do that for a couple of years. And that surprisingly sounds way more boring than it actually was, and was quite training intensive. Learning
I bet.
about the nuclear spectrum of radiation and all that we get tested on, because it's so highly federally regulated. It was quite a lengthy training process, and because I was going to be guarding the nuclear materials,
Mm.
boy, they had some toys. I mean, in
Oh, I
terms of the
bet.
budget, I'm talking like they had thermal sights on AR-15s before I even knew what a thermal sight was. Like,
Holy
never seen them in the
shit.
military outside of like a clue sight for a javelin, or a crow system.
Yeah.
I'd never seen one on a rifle before.
Wow.
Um, they had those just so if somebody threw smoke, they could shoot them through smoke, or
Mm-hmm.
we had the longest range in the state. So Homeland Security guys and DEA and those guys would come out, and their snipers would train out there, and would get to sit and pick their brains and do that stuff. We had, it was just all react to contact drills. That's what
Yeah.
the training mostly was. Somebody tries to come in here, we had barricaded positions, and I can't, some a little bit of this is OPSEC, so I'm not going to go into too big a detail about what the security position is, but the budget for it was so insane. Prior to the nuclear power plants getting decommissioned, they were talking about putting surface to air missiles on top of the reactor core. Like, that's how much money
Holy
they had, like, to shoot
shit.
from an aerial threat. And I'm like, Jeez. Like,
Holy shit.
you guys sound a little conspiracy theorists, but whatever.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Give me the
Wow.
button. You know, so I I'm missing the military. I'm missing the guys. I'm absolutely still just out of my mind. Right. I'm
Mm-hmm.
drinking way more than I should. If I'm not working, I'm drinking. Or if I'm not working or with my kids, then I'm definitely drinking.
Right.
I was working night shift. So it'd be my 5 o'clock was at 6 a.m., so we go to open the bar at 6 a.m. And do that. Definitely not healthy stuff. So I'd always kind of been interested in law enforcement. So I thought that would be a good bridge, like, or kind of a similar in between, a good medium for me of civilian life in the military, right? Like, I thought, okay, law enforcement, probably the way I want to go. So I get hired for a town department here in Iowa. And what I found out about cops is there are some really good ones out there, right? But they're like a bunch of Girl Scouts too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it is drama, drama, drama. Somebody's always got something going on. It is not the cohesive, like when you're with your guys, right? Like, you can trust them. They know you better than you know yourself, and they know everything about you, and you know everything about them. Just that's that bond. And
Mm-hmm.
that was what I was missing the most. And law enforcement was not like that. But that's okay. Whatever. I still love the job. Still like doing it. Got into some crazy shit, but been did that for the next 13 years. And throughout those 13 years, I do several different things. I was on the TAC team, became a sniper. Kind of I worked undercover narcotics agents, tip cases, to a federal OCDEF level, and just kind of hit the whole wheelhouse of, kind of touched a little bit of every portion of law enforcement that you could. So I've been doing that for 13 years. And yeah, I'm in it too deep now, right? Like, I need my 20 out of this. So,
So that's what you're currently doing.
yes.
Oh, okay. Well, as long as you're still a cop, because I was going to say, if you, I know of quite a few of my friends that listen to this podcast that are cops. And I don't know, it could be department to the department. But yeah, I mean, you might be right, though, because, in the military, the people that were out to screw everybody else to further their career, they were out there. I mean, we had our own special names for them. But in the military, most of the guys were like, "Oh, you got to be one of the crew." Like, if we're gonna
Yeah.
say fuck the command, but I guess in the departments I could see how it could be it could not cohese like that.
It's not that I'm not saying they're good dudes, right? Like good people,
Yeah,
right? They're
yeah,
good
yeah.
people. It's just not, it's
It's
like,
not the same.
not as tight,
Yeah,
is what I thought it would be,
yeah.
in terms of just, yeah, don't get me wrong. You have your buddies right there too.
Hmm.
You get one or two, but I thought, like it would be kind of more of that unit cohesion sort of
Yeah,
experience. And that's what I'm trying to say. Like,
yeah.
it's
Now that makes sense.
a lot more drama in that than there is in the military.
Yeah,
Um,
I can see that. I can
but
see that.
so, yeah, when I start off in law enforcement, this is where life kind of really gets hard for me and amongst all this stuff. So, we've been through the military, been through some shit and that, went through, that still haven't done the DA thing. But get hired as a police officer and I'm working night shift. And come to find out, when I go to work on nights, my wife's got a guy coming over who I hired to re-roof our house, she's now
Mm,
sleeping with. So I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. I mean, find that out, whatever. And I mean, I can't say I was the best cup of tea out there, either. But it was just got to a point where we were like, yeah, this ain't working out. So
yeah,
we decided she goes, she led me to believe, like, I wanted to keep it all amicable. And, when you're used to living with nothing, living out of a rucksack and a duffel bag, I really didn't need much.
yeah,
So I didn't care about the house. I didn't care about the dining room table or anything like that. The only thing I cared about is I was like, I just want my kids half the time.
yeah.
I just want to see my kids half the time. I did not want to be an every other weekend parent. And she was, oh yeah, no, you're a great dad, and all that stuff, well, so she's kind of narcissistic. What that turned into was, it's like, well, you can see your kids if like you give me $100 because I'm a little short for gas this month, or it was always a favor to her, or you can have the kids if she's out partying, you can swap me weekends because I have this party to go to this weekend or whatever. It was
Yeah.
nothing was ever free. Nothing, she said, hey, you can have your kids extra time. It was always, well, then you have to do this for me. So,
Ah,
I forget what kind of the manifestation of it was or what the sparking thing was, but she wanted me to give her money for something. And I'm like, no, I said, if the kids need anything, absolutely. But, I don't trust you. Yeah, she wanted a big sum of money. And I'm like, I don't trust you to spend it on the kids for what you're selling it. So why don't you just let me cut the check to whoever it is, that I need it for? And that
yeah.
just, as soon as I demanded the accountability, her whole thing changed, flipped her out. Well, I'll see you, I'll see you in court and you're not going to see your kids, but every other weekend. Well, I don't know how it is in Georgia, or if you talk to a bunch of buddies who've gone through divorce and everything like that, but in majority of cases, custody goes to the mother and fathers are treated like second class citizens.
Hmm.
So even though I did nothing wrong my entire life, right? Like never been arrested, never, was decorated, in the military, was a police officer. I did nothing wrong. There was no assaults, domestic violence, nothing like that going on. Um, no substance abuse issues outside of the early drinking, that I was telling you about. Um, Nothing like that going on. And, of course, judge agrees with her. And it's like, oh, no, you get every other weekend, and here's $1,200 a month in child support. And that's the way it's going to be. And I'm like, okay. And then that crushed me. Not the child support, not that, everything like that. Just crushed me. I wouldn't be able to see my kids every single day, or at least half the
Hmm.
time. So that really kind of put me in a bad spot. Personally, never when I was around my kids, but because when I got them, it was great, but when I was not with them, I was not good.
Hmm.
And so, I meet my now wife, probably 6 months after post divorce. I'm probably in them, probably 6 months, a little longer than that. But, anyways, things kind of turn around and I start to come to accept, that this is just the way it's going to be. And in the meantime, she'd been fucking up. Like her dad got arrested and he was a teacher. He got caught fondling a kid, So now I have
Oh
concerns about my
shit.
kids being around a registered sex offender. She's partying way too much, leaving the kids alone. My kids are 2 and 3 at this time. And I found out she's leaving them to go to parties. And
Oh
so I call in
shit.
a couple welfare checks from another PD to go in and check on the kids. And they find the kids home alone, but she always has like a friend in the apartment building come down and say that, oh, I just ran upstairs to grab something quick. I was coming right back. Okay. So we play that game. And of course, then I'm the harasser, because I'm I'm calling and, demanding accountability for this. So that turns into another court battle, where now I'm just being crazy. And the culminating event was, where like shit really hit the fan was, this was like 2018-ish. You can look it up online. It's famous. She calls me and says, "Hey, do you want kids for, early pickup this week or extra time this week?" Now she had moved to Des Moines, which is like 3 hours away from where I live, and I'm on a work schedule. And so that's a commitment, right? And it was too short a notice for me. Like I couldn't get the time off of work. So I'm like, no, I can't take him. I'm sorry. Like, if you'd let me know sooner, I could have got off, but I'm not going to be able to work. And she goes, "That's okay. I'll just let Carla and or, Jim know they were her aunt and uncle." Okay. And I said, "I can grab them early though on Thursday." Okay. Just plan on that. Pick them up from them. What she does, she was taking a vacation to Germany. She leaves the country, leaves them alone, has no childcare for them, leaves them completely alone, stocks the fridge full of food, leaves a loaded Glock 19 sitting on the end table and says, "See ya."
Oh,
So
shit.
she had 2 stepkids, right? And I think they were 9 at the time, 9 or 10. And so their dad was in the military too. And he hates her just as much as I do because she found out she put him through the ringer too. Same kind of thing. So we talk.
Yeah.
He's a West Point graduate. He's a major, at this time. He's comes from a good family, like has got absolutely nothing against him. She made his life hell. And so he calls me that night and goes, or not the next day. And he goes, "Hey, do you know where she is?" And I said, "No." I said, "She contacted me a couple days ago and asked me if I wanted the kids early, but she didn't tell me she was going anywhere." I said, "Jim and Carla ran." And he goes, "No." He goes, "I think they're there home alone." I said, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, I just talked to, his son on the phone." And he's like, he said, "Mom left them for 2 weeks and they're home alone and they don't know what to do." So I'm like, "Well, you're getting this information, dude. Like, you should call DHS. You should call, let's report this stuff. Like, they're not safe." So police department goes over there, finds them alone. The officer calls me and I said, "Hey," "I know she has firearms too." I'm like, "Please tell me she didn't leave those out." Well, the officer's on the phone. He looks at one of the kids and he goes, "Hey, does your mom have a gun in here?" And the kid goes and his son goes and gets it.
Holy
Goes and gets it.
shit.
Walks in the other room, grabs it, brings it to the officer. And they found out, like through the investigation, she had planned on leaving them alone for like 10 to 12 days to stock the fridge full of food. And she had the janitor of the building coming in to check on them before bedtime. That was it.
Oh my
The only
God.
adult, a 2 or 3-year-old and 2 9-year-old twins. So they obviously, I'm on my way to Des Moines. He lives in Texas, so he can't be there. So the state takes custody of the twins. I make it to Des Moines, take custody of my kids. I stay in Des Moines because I have to do interviews with the police department and things like that, about the communication, show on my phone and everything like that. And I do that. It was 7 days before the police were able to make contact with her over in Europe. And by that time, they had arrest warrants waiting for her saying, "You need to come home." They had child endangerment and all that stuff.
Mm-mm.
So she flies home. They arrest her immediately. I've already got a protective order and a temporary custody order filed. And I had been advocating for like kind of dads' rights and stuff to the Iowa legislature for some time with a group of other dads. And one of them who works for, I've never told this story like this before either because I held it tight for years, who happened to be a producer for KCCI, which is a main media outlet for Des Moines.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Hey, dude," I'm like, "I need to put a little pressure on the judges and county attorney's office." And I'm like, "If you could run this story, like, doesn't have to be top story, but if you could get it in the news, I'd appreciate it." So he does. He throws it up, gets the police report, throws up the news. The Associated Press picks it up. It is the #1 news story in the world for 5 days prior to the Jason Aldean shooting in Las Vegas.
Oh.
I'm getting calls from Nancy Grace, Dr. Phil, Inside Edition, Alicia Banfield, everybody. I'm getting offers for $1,500 an interview. And the world goes nuts, right? My social media gets bombarded. I'm getting death threats and I'm also getting marriage proposals. I'm getting, it gets wild. I mean, attorney has, I've got his personal cell phone number now because I'm like, what do I do?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, because I was getting a ton of death threats, people thinking that I had something to do with it, and I'm like, I feel like I should do one of these interviews and just tell them what's up. So that way people stop trying to kill me. And he goes, yeah, go ahead and do one of the interviews. So I did a couple of interviews like Inside Edition and stuff like that. And it gets, that kind of helps out a lot. And then I start getting more marriage requests, like, hey, saw you on the news, you're hot, like whatever. I forgot to back up. When I was in Fort Leonard Wood too, I'm laying on the hospital bed. You get mail there. And I get a piece of mail from the Missouri Department of Corrections. And I'm like, I don't know anybody in fucking prison. And I open it up. It's this picture of this big lady. And she's on there and she's like, I saw you, your injury, like the story on you in the paper, about how it's your second Purple Heart, whatever. Anyways, thought you were hot. I'm currently incarcerated for like that fifth degree. When I get out, if you want to hook up, let's hook up.
God damn.
Never happened. But now I just thought that reminded me of that.
That's so funny.
Because I'm getting these marriage requests from people all over, a lot of these women all over the country. But ultimately that leads to, so she gets, comes to her trial. I read victims' impact statements on behalf of my kids and stuff like that. And she gets slapped on the wrist with 2 years probation.
God damn it.
She does. If it didn't you or me, I'd have been in jail for 22 years.
Yeah.
So she gets probation. She completes her probation. There's a no contact order. She hadn't seen the kids in over probably a year at this point. After her arrest, she does 3 therapy sessions and the therapist says she's cured. Now you go back to whatever.
Wow.
She files for to try to get custody back. The judge awards her every other weekend. I got primary then at this point. Well, she's still angry about this. And she's just taking out everything she can on me. I mean, everything is a fight, right? Like a pickup time, a location, things like that. Everything is complicated. I get to a point where I have to have somebody with me as an independent observer, or I have to have a police officer with me. So that way she doesn't try to fabricate something against me because she is so angry and so narcissistic that way. She tries to get custody back, her side again, doesn't go her way. So now she's got to try to find something on me. So her oldest daughter is cut from the same cloth she is. And she's like 13, 14 now. And so she is exactly like her mother. They fabricate a sex assault against me. They call the Department of Human Services, shows up at my door with 2 detectives. And they're like, hey, can we come and talk to you? I'm like, yeah. And they come in and they're like, this is what's being accused, that you raped her when she was 2 years old. And I'm like, well, okay. I said, I'm a cop. I've investigated sex assaults. And I said, this is bullshit. And I'm like, if she says that happened when she was 2 years old, there's going to be physical evidence. You're going to have scarring, ripping, tearing, whatever. And I said, take her, if that's the way they want to go, I said, you need to take her in for a SANE interview. A SANE interview is like a forensic interview, and they do a forensic inspection of genitalia on kids and stuff like that, to prove cases like that. And like, it doesn't exist. And if it does exist, you might want to look at her grandpa. Just saying, Anyways, I get a call back a week later, get an apology from the detectives, get an apology from DHS. And they're like, we got her in there for the forensic interview, found out that, yep, it was all fabricated and whatever. And I'm like, good. Now, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
I'm like, because she should be charged with filing a false report, because that destroyed me mentally. Being accused of something that grotesque.
Yeah.
After I'd done nothing in my life, that was so offensive to me. Like I could not comprehend. I couldn't understand it in my head. Like, it fucked with me to my moral core so bad. I was like murderously mad. Like, I mean, just mad and embarrassed that it would even be said or thought about me. Like, I mean, just the false allegation alone was like just so bad. So she never gets charged for that. We go back to an every other weekend schedule. And my girls are starting to distance themselves from her too. Like, cause they're getting older now, right? Now they're like years go by. Now they're 11 and 12. And my oldest daughter played travel softball. And this was 3 years ago. And she comes to me and there was something going on at school she wanted to do, but it happened to fall on her mom's time. And I said, I can't ask her. I said, because she's going to blow up on me. And I said, but if this is important to you, I said, she can take you. She can do this, but she never did take her to things or do anything extra with them. I said, you can ask her. Maybe she would like to do this with you, or maybe she would allow you to go. And she broke down so bad in the living room, like to where her body was like physically shaking, or I thought she was going to urinate on the floor. Like, sobbing over a conversation over like a school lock-in or something like that. And I immediately got up. I thought she was having a seizure. Got up. I go over to her. I give her, I'm like, what is wrong? I'm not understanding what's going on. I'm like, what's wrong? What's wrong? Talk to me. And she goes, I can't say that to her. And I said, why can't you tell her you want to go to your lock-in? And it was my 11-year-old who then sits on the couch, goes, because she'll beat us. And I said, what? And it leads into a whole nother case of how she's been beating him this whole time and telling him to shut up and locking him in their room, a whole bunch of torture and stuff. So that generates another report, another law enforcement investigation. She then gets found guilty of all of that. And now it took 2 years. So like just a little over a year ago, or about a year now, I've had sole primary custody. Her rights are stripped. She can't touch them anymore. But the kicker to all that is like, that's 3 years of litigation through an HHS case and all that stuff. Because she's a defendant, she has the right to an attorney without cost if she can't afford one. Well, she couldn't afford one. I, on the other hand, am still litigant with the state in that. I'm not versing the state, right? It's the state, myself, the kid's guardian ad litem versus her.
Right.
But I'm still on the hook for an attorney. So over the course of those years and that case and everything like that, building up to this, I've got over $375,000 wrapped up into this now that I'm going to be paying off till. So my VA money every month just goes to attorney's fees. She's gone now. I'm glad my kids are safe. They're happy. Sorry, it gets better. I told you it would get a lot better. So this was last February. She finally gets the 86 from the state saying you're no longer their mother. You're gone. The next month, my 14-year-old gets diagnosed with cancer. So we're fighting that battle right now. So yeah, that's still ongoing. She's doing very well, but now we're tackling that. So it's my hard times have come after the service, and I know we're way off course from military talk here, but that's kind of my life, how it progressed.
No, man,
like that explanation after the service.
No, that's what it's about. Like, the combat stories are cool, and that's what draws people.
Here's where it gets a little cool, involving my brothers from the military. Is so you get to handle these cancer manuals, right? Because I just go and I'm insane, right? Like I'm going to find a cure myself for this, right? Because I'm doing everything. Like I'm a worried parent. And so I'm reading all the manuals. Like I'm looking at everything online. I'm researching everything I can do to get what can I source for her to give her the best possible outcome of this. And everything kept coming back to wild game. Like this is the best nutrition, proteins to build her body from damage from chemotherapy, fats to help her keep weight on because she's not going to want to eat. So I'm doing this in like wild game, source wild game if you can. So I call a buddy of mine who is in the 101st. He's a double Purple Heart recipient too, who does a bunch of these. This is where this hat came from. It's Giving Back Outdoors. It's a veterans group. They take vets hunting and all over, and they give back to vets. And I knew that he had gotten associated with these guys. And I deer hunt. I do a bunch of stuff, but I was looking for a variety of things that I could throw at her. So he didn't have to keep, eating the same stuff. So I called Brad and I'm like, Brad, dude. And he goes, hey, Macke. He goes, what's up? And I'm like, hey, this is a situation. And I'm like, I know you just got back from Alaska. He just killed a moose, whatever. I was like, if you know anybody you talk to throughout your friends or whatever, I didn't even know he was hooked up with these guys yet. Or if you got an extra breast or a steak or something laying around I can source for her, and here's why I want it. I said, I would really appreciate it. And he goes, I got you, man. He calls me 2 days later with this vets organization group, shows up with 2 coolers full of bison, elk, Alaskan salmon, Alaskan walleye. I had to go buy a new freezer because he got all this stuff for her. And so that's exclusively what I fed her out through a year. So they did that, this organization, and my Army buddy, Brad Hannawell. Then I called my platoon sergeant I was telling you about, who I'm good friends with. He runs a supplement company out of Arkansas. So I called him and I'm like, do you have anything that would help out with this? He's like, yeah, dude, I'll ship you tubs of protein up and everything like that. So did that. So my brothers came together around me with this, with the things that I didn't even think I'd be able to get, it's wild. So
that's good, man. That's good. It's good. Like, that's the thing. Like, my first daughter was born early and like really early, like 24 weeks and 2 days. Like, so she spent like more than 100 days in the NICU. And, that's really, but like that's touch and go. But like I remember I had so many calls from buddies from the military when they seen it on Facebook. You know, they were like, dude, you know, what do you need? You need money, you need me to fly down there, you know?
Yeah.
And it was awesome because there's no better feeling than somebody who, and you know, some of these guys we don't talk to for a long time and they pick up the
Yeah.
phone and they're like, what do you need, bro? Like it's like, you know, it's like time never lapses sometimes.
You know, that's a very good point. So it was the same thing for me. Once we announced it, like, you know, I got this outpouring. I heard from dudes I hadn't talked to 10 years, you know, just
Yeah.
like, but the ability like to go to a reunion or go see a friend that you haven't seen in 2, 3 years, in that community, you can pick up like it was the next day. It is
Yeah.
crazy. You know, it's,
Yeah.
you know, my wife doesn't understand that because she hasn't even met all of the guys that I was over there with, you know, and
Right.
every now and then we'll be at a state fair or something like that. And you'll randomly run into that dude, you know,
Yeah.
and, you know, right away it's going to be a hug. It's going to be a, what the
Right.
fuck's up, man? You know,
Yeah. What's
whatever.
up,
And
dude?
it's so strange because we've been married for 7 years now. And she's like, how do you know that person? Like, what? Like, I can't believe I've never heard about him if you're hugging him and doing all this stuff. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's just the way it is. Like, yeah.
That was the cool thing. That is the cool thing about me being married from when I was 20 and she was 18. So she's been with me 2 deployments. She knows all the guys from the infantry. As a matter of fact, one of our guys that got blown up, he messages me back when I'm still in Afghanistan. He's at not Walter Reed, but the other one down in San Diego. I can't remember the name of it. There's another medical hospital, Balboa. He's down at Balboa, and he asked me, he's like, hey, can I take your wife out for Valentine's Day? And I'm like, yeah, because at this time he was like our illegitimate child because he was single and lived in the barracks, and me and her were married and we were bros, so he'd be over at the house. But ends up she didn't take him out for Valentine's Day. He didn't take her. She pushed him in his wheelchair around damn San Diego. So really, she took him out for Valentine's Day. But you know, and it's so cool, man, because you develop those relationships. And like I said, like that guy, dude, like literally I can pick up the phone and we haven't talked in months and we could be like, what's up, bro? And then at the end of the conversation, we'd be like, love you, dog. You know?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
and that's pretty cool, man. Like, it's good
Yeah.
to do that. So did you, just a quick question, and because this is kind of like a common thing. Do you still drink?
I do, but I have backed it way down.
Way off. Okay,
So especially since you know, it was I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a coping mechanism in like certain stresses
Yeah.
and a certain
No,
period
that's right.
of my life where I've done that. You know, I've
Yeah.
never done it on a consistent basis. You know, it wasn't a decade-long problem. It was a situational problem.
Yeah.
And so, and you know, I go hard. So, you know,
Yeah.
everything we're doing is worth overdoing, right? Like I wouldn't have one beer. Like I'm drinking the
Right.
fucking 12 pack. Like, you know, so now, especially since my daughter got sick and you know, my parenting style is very much like, you know, kind of like military. I don't ask my kids to do things that I don't do myself.
Right.
So when I'm asking my kid, you got to eat this, you got to eat
And
healthy
you're on
because
the
it's
help.
important. Why? So
Yeah.
I started at the same time she did with this stuff. So I did more or less like I'm doing like a carnivore modified diet, you know, because that's kind of what fit me. And so she's getting better. Her last scans came back clean 3 weeks ago. So she's on the up and ends. I lost 48 pounds, you know, almost back down to my fighting weight, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, that has helped out. Like, so I'm doing it with her. So I really kind of cut alcohol out for the last, you know, I've really backed it down. I'll have one or two if we're Christmas Eve dinner, you know, with family and everybody around, or if I go to a college game or, you know, a football game.
Yeah.
But I just don't turn it on like I used to.
Yeah, like that's the thing. That's the thing. It goes one of two ways. Either you still drink and it's whatever, but you know what kind of damage that can do mentally. But like the thing is like for a lot of guys, it's either they quit it altogether because they're like, I can't control it. They've come to that self-realization, or they come to the self-realization like I kind of have, where I'm like, okay, I had to quit it for a while, but now I realize that I can temper it. You know what I'm saying? It's not the
Yeah.
go hard attitude where it's like I can have one bourbon and play, a game of chess and I can just chill. But used to like if I had alcohol in the house, I had to drink it until it was gone, you
Yes.
know,
Very comparable.
and yeah, and that's not that doesn't go well over time. But yeah, it's cool that, so you probably looked into some alternative health stuff, when you found out she got diagnosed with that.
Yeah.
Um so that's probably cool. Yeah, because I stalked your Facebook. I stalk all the guests' Facebook. But
I
I
friend
kind
requested you, so you're good.
so I looked through your photos. So yeah, I was wondering if you were gonna get to that. I was gonna say, yeah, man, it looks like you definitely look healthier than you have in some of your other photos. And that's cool, man. Like that's my biggest thing is my thing now is I already got enough problems, already got a bad back, already got a TBI, already had to deal with like memory loss and shit. So now my thing is like I want to be around as long as I can for my kids. So, it's like I do weird things, weird health things. And like, but my kids are like, why can't I have that? And I'm like, you can't have that because if you want to live a long time, you can't have that. I still give my kids soda, occasionally and things like that. But it's like I'm a lot more, like you said, different parenting style than my parents were, you know.
Yeah,
So
I'm not, super food Nazi in the house. I got
yeah,
toddlers, dude. So there's
yeah,
goldfish,
yeah,
Oreos, everything. Like,
I feel you.
but yeah, I feel a lot better, like from
Yeah.
cleansing and kind of coming, even just not necessarily from the drinking, like not drinking or whatever, but just from like not, I can't eat. I'm not in a position where I can eat meat all day, every day, every single meal, and everybody gets tired of that, right? So
Hmm.
but if you can mix things in that are pure, like just single ingredient foods,
Right. Yeah.
that don't come from a box, don't
Right.
come with flour,
That's right.
grains, anything like that. That you'll be surprised how much better you feel just not
Yeah.
doing that, not eating the shit. Like,
You're right. That's what I tell people. So, like, I haven't really talked health food on here, but like, I haven't owned a microwave in like over a decade. And so, because my thing is, people will be like, how do you not have a microwave? And I'm like, because anything you can cook in a microwave is not good for you.
yeah,
And yes, it makes things a little bit more complicated. And I feel you with little kids because I just got over the toddler phase not too long ago. And now it's like, okay, now my youngest will actually eat the stuff I cook. But yeah, and it's like using whole foods to make meals. And it's like, okay,
yeah,
instead of it being in a box, if it's in a box, you better look at that box very carefully. And I think that's something like that veterans need to hear. It's like, look, you took care of your mind, you dealt with like the mental aspect. So it's like take care of your body too, man. Like because it's not going to
yeah,
be around forever, and we're getting older. you know.
yeah, absolutely. Yep. That's what we're trying to do here.
But where are you at currently? What you got medevaced out of Afghanistan? You kind of left in a hurry. It's been years. Like, would you say that? Like, do you talk to a therapist?
I don't know.
You don't. Okay, so do you feel like you kind of you dealt with that? Like, kind of
I
on the
felt like
mental
I
side?
tried therapy a few times, like earlier on, and I just didn't could haven't found a good fit, or anybody
Yeah.
that like truly understood,
Hmm.
where I was at. So I just kind of gave up on it. And for me, you know, I don't know, just definitely had rowdy years, where I did
Yeah.
stupid shit and was doing stuff I shouldn't. Not necessarily like criminally bad shit, but just being an asshole.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I shouldn't be out of PTSD and everything like that. But I think just time and staying busy
Hmm.
has,
Yeah.
really, and being 41 as opposed to 23 or whatever, so time and being busy. And now I've got, and I had other fights, and
Yeah.
my whole time after I even got out of the military has been one fight after the next, so I'm just now getting to a period now, we get wrapped up with this cancer stuff. It's going to be like really the first period in my life where I haven't had an enemy.
Man, yeah, it's like that's the thing. It's like it's almost like now is when you need to be on the lookout for
Yeah, probably.
yeah, like because it's almost like that attitude you talked about where it's like and I just talked to the guy the other day, but your episode will come out before that. But like he talked about like it's 100% attitude. It's go 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 go, and that's literally been you, dude. You've been trying to like work a job, keep the family together, make sure all this, fight the ex-wife, deal with the current wife, which I'm sure is not and not
Yeah, he has
100%
his
walk in the
days,
park.
but better than last, I'll say.
Yeah, yeah. So like yeah, what advice would you give to because it's common in the military because you got stuck with what I'm sure everyone listening will consider she I'm not going to say any words, but yeah, she was no good. It wasn't the military that destroyed that marriage. It was her own, just her being a terrible human being. So, I guess my question is, what would advice would you be to guys who struggle with dealing with, co-parenting and, maybe a spouse that likes conflict?
Well, I would say the best thing that if conflict's different than a bad spouse, right? Or
Mm,
they can intertwine, but the you come to a realization at a certain point whether are you going to stay with this person or not. You know
mm,
that feels like the breaking ground. Every marriage has its conflict, and you get through those conflicts in the unique way that you might deal with your wife through problems, or whatever. And it's not all a pit of roses.
mm-hmm.
There's ugly times where you hate each other, but you either decide to stay together or you don't. If you think my advice would be, if you think it's going to go that way to where, it could turn into an ugly mess, like, I found myself into, the earlier you can start documenting and recording and protect. Like, I'm not saying record her in the bathroom. I'm saying, like, if she is a bad human being and screams at your kids to an inappropriate level, you might want to stick a voice recorder in that room, and get some of that before you decide to walk out the door, because you're 9 times out of 10 not going to be believed.
Right.
So you want to have evidence, you want to have documentation, you want to have character witnesses, and you want to do it to protect whoever you're trying to protect, whether that be your kids, yourself, or just keep things transparent and honest in front of a judge. Those are the things that are the only thing that are probably going to stick.
Yeah.
Because if you put your hand on the Holy Bible and you swear to God and it's 100% true, you can go in there and say that, and at best you're only going to get believed about 40%. So
Yeah.
because divorces are, highly contentious issues, there's mudslinging in a lot of cases and a lot of flagrant and false allegations that fly out. So you do it to protect yourself. So
Right.
maybe before you walk out the door, yeah, that would be my advice: is document.
Yeah, because I know a guy who is close to me or has been in the past, and that's what he did. So like she didn't. I don't even think she knew he was going to ask for a divorce. She might have, but like he had it all documented, and when he went to custody court, he took her to the cleaners.
Yeah.
I mean, 100%. I'm glad you're doing good and everything. Stay in touch. Don't be a stranger. And
You too.
for the listeners, I appreciate y'all. Thanks for listening, and I'll see y'all next week.
That sounds great. Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on the show.